Well, welcome to the show, everybody. This is Sunday. Obviously, this is unannounced. Had no plans on going live. I just wanted to touch base on a few things. My son is out of the hospital. I just wanted to go over what happened this past week. My son had some issues. Picked him up from school and found a issue with his heart rhythm and his heartbeat. And literally, we rushed him to the hospital from the urgent care center. And then they pretty much did a ton of tests, and we talked to cardiologists and a ton of people, things that I would have never in my wildest dreams felt would have happened over what we thought was just bronchitis or a cold. And the end result is, as of right now, he has ventricular bigeminy, which is a extra beat that he shouldn't actually have. I can't say it's common, but there's more to it, at least with my son's case. So we are having some further tests on this week. So it's going to be a pretty hectic week. As of now, things are fine, and there's nothing to really worry about at this moment. But we do need to figure out some more issues with it. The cause, for one, no one can tell us anything on why. The recommendations has been that he probably had it his whole life, and just no one caught it, which is kind of hard to believe because he was into the same doctor just maybe 2 months ago and nothing has been said. He was actually had to be resuscitated when he was delivered, so he was legally dead when he was born. So it's just been one of those issues. They did a ton of tests, so they're actually now going back and researching his original tests from when he was born. Heart disease runs in my family. My father died Easter Sunday when I was 17 at the age of 50. My grandmother had her first heart attack at 32. So this has been an extremely traumatic experience for the family, and my life in general. So anyway, but things wise are steady. So everything is back. At least he's here at the house, and we had a very bad experience. So anyway. One of us was at the hospital the whole time. The wife spent the first night there, and we kind of switched off from there. So it's been a really bad experience. One thing I can talk about here, and what I really want to address more than anything else, is your ability to do stuff when you're doing eBay. I don't know what would have happened had I been working for somebody, and with life in general, with a job, you're not getting pay. And this is part of what drives me to do eBay. The ability to do whatever I need to do to get my life running in the right direction or to take care of my family. This is just a real perfect example of things that can happen in the spur of the moment. And I see this all the time where people, complaining over little issues. And this is a real reason why I say don't sweat the small stuff. Everybody gets all flustered if there's a return or, even up to negative feedback. That's nothing. That means nothing. It's not going to kill your business. It's not going to affect your business. What we do and what I do for the life of my family, my children, and things along that line. So, excuse me. And anyway, that's what's important, having time with your family and, excuse me. But again, that's what's important: having time with the family and making sure you're, have the ability to do what you need for your family. So, I don't sweat the small stuff, and this is a perfect example of what's important and what's not. When you have an illness or an issue with a family member, you're sweating the wrong stuff worrying about the little petty things that are in a business, whether you're a small business, a large business, or, any type of business. Again, I can't express enough why you don't need to sweat the small stuff. So many things happen. Life is over in the blink of an eye. Things happen just overnight that, you just can't control. So stop sweating the small stuff. This is, in my opinion, a driving factor in what I do, how I live my life and what literally drives me to do what I do. And eBay has been the perfect job for us. I don't criticize eBay. I don't criticize the hand that feeds me for the most part and feeds my family and has been extremely good to my life, to my health, my well-being, my kids' life, my kids' well-being. So again, eBay is the bomb. I don't care what anybody says. I'm not going to sit here and dog them unless I actually, honestly have an issue with eBay. And these days, so many people have so many issues, and so many other YouTubers are just, it's a channel somewhat to just dog on eBay and complain about the issues. They're a business. They're not there to hurt anybody, to harm anybody. You're honestly worrying about the wrong stuff. Again, I've separated my business from my life, my personal life, extremely well. Our business still went on while we weren't here, while we were at the hospital. And that's just the biggest thing that I can say is stop sweating the small stuff. Your life will be so much better when you can center in on the family and then separate that from your business. Stop taking everything personally. For me, this whole experience is going to drive me to do so much more that I haven't done in the past, and to advance our business to a point where I don't have to worry about things going on anymore. We don't worry much about business at all. I have a bad day in business. I don't really care anymore these days. The end result is the key. We sustain our business, our sales increase. I don't have the issues that everybody else complains about, And if I do have similar type issues, they're not bothersome to me because, again, my family is all that matters. My consideration is last these days because, a parent, and again, everybody doesn't have to have kids, and I'm not trying to criticize anybody for not having kids, but as a parent of 2 kids, they are number one in my life, my wife's life as well, too. My wife comes second and I come third. That's just the way we all see it here. Business is last on my list. I do love my business and I do like what I do. But again, I wished I could express it and everybody could feel the same way, that you don't need to sweat all the small stuff. Your life, your well-being, your health, your stress levels, your blood pressure, all of this stuff is so important. You only have one chance at life. Let's not blow it on wasting our time on stupid things. I don't know if this is motivational to anybody, but this has been a roller coaster this last couple days. And we try to get through everything, and you can't worry about all those little small things. It makes us who we are, obviously, but you've got to just move past the little small things. Who cares if somebody returns something? Are you going to be thinking about that in a week from now? If you are, you're honestly, just get out of the business right now. If you're going to sweat that somebody screwed you over on eBay, get out of the business. I'm telling you, because I've been through the gamut of things. I've worked for businesses that were just terrible. The job was awful. The experience was awful. The people I worked with were awful. You do it because you have to. But, nowadays I do what I want to do. And, I don't know how to get this into everybody's head who doesn't get that drive, doesn't have the dedication or the feeling towards this. This is all done for your family or your life, to better yourself. It's just not possible to waste your time on this. You shouldn't be doing that. I can't tell you when the last time that I worried or was upset about something related to eBay. I can't come up with a time. It hasn't happened in a couple of years now. I've just given up on all that worry and hassle, because once you get stuff to a certain point, it's like a train. It just keeps going down the track, and it's like an autopilot. It just keeps going the way it should be. I just can't explain that enough. I mean, my life has changed to the better for this, and it gives me the opportunity to worry about the things that are important, which are family. Stop worrying about things that happen on the job. Obviously, some of them can affect your business, but there's nothing you can do about every issue there is there. You just have to figure a way around it. So enough on that. I'll just touch base a little bit more on my son. We're going in for stress tests. He's going to have cardiologist visits, quite a few of them here. Just trying to still pinpoint what actually happened and why and things like that. We have to change his diet. Some school activity has to be changed. So again, it's ventricular bigeminy. For the most part, ventricular geminy is a electrical system in the heart. I'm sure some people have well aware of this. I went through most of the same terminology when my father was in the hospital from the heart attack. So I do have a basis on some of this. Thank God the technology is so much better these days from the 3+ decades ago when that happened on Easter Sunday with my father. So they have echo sounding, which is the ultrasound, which they did for my son too. We were by his side the whole time, so we got to see and experience everything that was there, and the whole works. Um, Blood tests beyond belief, virus tests. You learn a lot being in the hospital. And another thing that I could recommend you never, ever, ever do if you're given a diagnosis, don't look it up online. Don't go to WebMD and look up what it says, because you probably won't like the response or the actual aspect of it. Most people worry when they see it, and I'm sorry I looked, honestly. Just because there's some not so good things involved with this. But in my case, he's young. His heartbeat is had a really low rate, so he's very healthy. The muscle structure of the heart's fine, and they do chest X-rays, multiple scans. The echocardiograph is a ultrasound of the heart while it's moving. It's coded, it's color coded. Something they never had when my father was going through this. Had they had it, there might have been a better response, and but that's water under the bridge. It's been a long time since that happened. But heart disease runs in my family, so it was a very worrisome experience. But again, things are fine at this point, and we're just moving forward, and we're back to business. For me, it's therapeutic to do business and to talk about things, and to just get back into the normal scheme of things. So again, this may not be everybody's touch and taste on my channel, but this is a personal experience and something I'm going to be talking about here and there, because I've got a ton of feedback, emails, messages, which I honestly deeply appreciate. Anyway. But back to the actual show here. So I did miss Thursday's show. We had some actually exciting news that we were planning on doing. I had some videos that will still be going up. I'm behind on Patreon. I'm behind on my emails. I'm behind on a whole bunch of stuff. So I'll get to them when I can. I'll address them as I can. And we'll be back to normal, hopefully, on a schedule here this week at some point. I do have a What's Sold on eBay video I did put together this morning, which will be up still today. I've got some video that's already been edited that I will have up, and I do shoot ahead of time just in case things like this do come up. So, I will have some content. I know in personal benefit, a lot of people said, that's not, and, don't worry about that. It's therapeutic again. I like doing what I do. Keeps your mind off things, and this is my life. I still have a job and my career and my business, so my son's home and he's here with us, so we're going to move on with our business and go from there. Again, you've got to be able to balance what goes on. You've got to be able to do that. Working for somebody else, you don't have that opportunity. So again, I just can't express enough how much of a life changer eBay and working online for oneself can be for your life, your experience. Your health is number one, and for so many people, the job stress is horrendous. Many people go on medication for it. We've had direct personal family members on medication. It's not all good. A lot of it's pushed and marketed for nothing more than profits. Everybody knows what medication costs in this country. So, just trying to steer your life and keep everything going in the right direction, doing the right thing, being honest so you don't have any issues. I'm a very straightforward person. I don't even run red lights. I don't speed. I'm not in a rush to get anywhere. I don't worry about, road rage or any of that kind of stuff. Somebody cuts me off, I just go on with my day. So again, this is what's important. Get your priorities straight. I can't express that enough. I've been like this for a long time. I've worried about the right things for a long, long, long time. I run my life, my business on the up and arrow. I don't, straight. I don't mess around. I don't violate even basic rules these days. I've had, complaints and comments, even from subscribers, just basic issues like mailing things out. I won't mail things out and alter anything on a form to save somebody money. I won't change business practices. I don't do that. That's just not proper business. I don't care if it means an increase in sales. I run my whole life this way because of experiences and issues like what happened with my son. So, at some point, you realize you're not going to live forever. you're getting up there in age. I'm not old, and most people aren't going to consider it that way in their life or anybody's life. You are who you are. One thing I can say is you are you inside, all the way from birth to your current age. How I thought and what was me at age 15 or 17 when my father dies is still there. So you can't change any of that. You can't change your appearance. You can't change who you are. Just make the best of your life, and think about the right things again. Your family, your life, your health. So again, anyway, let's get on to some happier news. I did finalize a deal with, it's going to be Tenacious Toys. I am just now getting some better photos of my actual trilobite. He's taking my clown. He's taking anything else I produce. We have another line in production right now of nostalgic 3 3/4 action figure style things similar to the original Star Wars, but of nostalgic non-Star Wars related things. So we've got a lot of things going on. So it was just a shocker because I was here all set, ready to do some good news, and we've got this, and we've actually, sounds like we might have a second toy deal, as well as we are working on a Kickstarter now for getting some quality molds made. We're hoping to get some action on the trilobite to a point where it's mass produced for a whole complete production run, paid for by somebody else, hopefully somebody who would be willing to put a stake in it. We've got a lot of interest. I've gotten, extremely good feedback. I know this is something we could have possibly marketed and done by ourselves. And I'm going to go into some details on this because there's so many people I've talked to and people email on things like this where you could have done your own aspect on this. Why worry about sourcing every single item you have when you've got the opportunity to create or have made your own merchandise where you never have to source again? I'm always going to do antiques and collectibles. Always. I don't. Even if I didn't do it as a business, I would do it for my own personal benefit because I love buying vintage stuff. I love looking at it. I love collecting it. A lot of the art I do is related to these things that I buy in the first place. So again, I love what I do. I just love what I do across the board. I like every aspect of it. I like looking. I like finding. I like digging for stuff. I mentally detect it. So the whole aspect of eBay is like a treasure hunt for us. So you really have to like it to make the best of it, to think outside the box, to be able to expand your business. So I love what I do. I can say for sure for the entire 30, 40 years, whatever of my life, I've worked for somebody, and I've worked for people before I was legally able to work for people. This has been the best time of my life in work and, life and family and experiences, I can say. So again, you have to involve all this in your aspect and look at everything from a different aspect. Look at it from a personal versus a business, and love what you do. I just can't express that enough. I love what I do. I really honestly do. If not for the sake that it gives me the backup, the ability to drop what I'm doing on a dime and just go do something else if I need to stay at the hospital all night long or dedicate time to something else, I can do that. So again, this is all what it is. We're gearing towards producing our own items. Not that's going to be a percentage of our business. We'll never again give up what we do and what you see here on YouTube. This is core to our business, but we are branching off. We are using our income from what we have sold, from our collectibles, from our antiques, to reinvest into a business that can sustain itself through, constant sales, through mass sales, through making and producing, hopefully at some point, a couple 100,000 trilobites, if it gets to that. And I'll cross my fingers on that. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I'm not going to stress that either. That is a goal. Again, set yourself a goal and then strive for that. So that's what we're looking towards. I'm looking for the ability to produce these items. And again, I'm producing other items. So I have multiple opportunities. So if the trilobite doesn't go, no big deal. I will create something else. Again, I've got employees. Everybody doesn't have the opportunity to there. The rule of thumb is get your stuff going on one business. Get it going to a point where you can sustain and pay for your room, your board, your rent, your house payments, whatever those bills are. And then work up to being able to pay for your rent or your electricity, your bills, your phone, your car. And then work up and keep working to the level that you can sustain yourself. sustainability, the ability to get all this running, to be able to advance it to a point where you're making enough money to live on. We started off differently than some people. We graduated. I didn't have income coming in, so we had to do drastic measures, all legal up and up. And I would never ever in my life con somebody. I've been conned too many times in my life as a general manager or even a regional manager. You've got employees conning the places you work every day of your life. It's usually the nicest, most helpful employee at your business that's the one that's usually the one scamming you, at least from experience that I've seen. So I've seen it from every aspect you can imagine. So again, it's a business, so I don't take those personally anyway. I will look at some questions here in a few minutes if we have any. So if no one's popped any up yet, just because of the tone in the conversation, be my guest. Let's move this to a lighter tone here. It's about the only issues that I get emotional these days are over my family, my kids especially. So if I pause, it's trying to hold myself a little bit together. Because again, this has been a very traumatic experience. It's not over yet, but it's on the upscale side. So I've got some bad memories from when my father died, and it's all heart related. So again, I try to separate that, but sometimes it's kind of hard when these things happen. But again, we're back up. We're doing what we got to do. Get back up on the horse. You fall off a bike, you just keep going, and you learn, you do, you advance. My goals haven't changed. I can tell you for sure though that I'm doubling down on what my goals were prior to this incident, because I've got a bigger drive now than I've ever had in my life. So anyway, this is just one of those things that makes you a better person and helps to advance your business. I mean, I just, again, drive. I've got to drive better than most people do. And I'm not here, again, trying to sell anybody anything or push my services. I would rather, advance my toys or my vinyl or whatever else we're doing on the side, and that's my goals and where my extra money is going to come from. So again, I'm not going to market myself the way others do. Another side note here, I've had many comments on and offers to go on other channels or to put other people on my channel. I will go on a couple other channels here in the very near future. I had some decent, favorable contacts and information. I haven't returned reply to some of these just because of what's been going on, but we will be going on some channels. I am going to be extremely selective in who I talk to and who I associate myself with. Again, these are business decisions and not personal. I do not plan on having anybody that is going to market any service that I will get a commission. I don't care about that. That's not my goal. It never has been. So I won't be doing anything that relates to that aspect of YouTube. So again, my core belief, my core drive is always going to be towards what we do and what you see right this minute. So I'm not going to dilute or anything else. I did do a survey. It's still up right now. Not a huge amount of people that took care of it or filled out for it, but enough to give me a real good judge. Plus, I got a ton of emails and comments on some of the other pages and places that I have feed on, like Patreon and my Facebook page. So again, I appreciate all the comments in relation to that. I would like a bigger audience, obviously, just as everybody would. It will help me to do some more things. We've had many things in the back burner here, like doing some live feeds from some businesses here locally, and also doing some interviews with some people who have been in the antique flea market and antique mall business for their life, and trying to give you an inside look on some of that, which is still planned. The last resort is if we can't figure that all out, I'll just shoot some videos in there and we'll do some recorded material from there. I will possibly have some people from the actual toy companies we're talking to possibly on the channel, and they will discuss ways and means that you as a seller as well can market and do your own toys or your own resins or figures or vinyl. They don't have to be toy related. They can be science related. They can be automotive related. There's people that do castings of cars and market those. There's people who alter Hot Wheels and make their own designs of Hot Wheels. There's people on YouTube that just do videos on fixing up red line Hot Wheels, and they resell them, they market them. They've got a huge following. In some cases, some of these folks have, close to 100,000 subscribers for just messing with Redline, Hot Wheels, and things like that. So there's so many aspects of life that you can do things on, and there's so many starts and ways you can start and get into, this. It doesn't all have to be collectibles or brand news or vintage. You've got the opportunity these days to market and create your own lines of toys or whatever you do. I've talked to people now that write their own stories or write their own books. I know people that actually sit there and retranscribe vintage books that are, non-copyrighted, that are public domain, and they'll put them up on Amazon, and they get a constant trickle. It's not a ton of money, but they've done dozens and dozens of books. And now some of these friends of mine that do this are in the $1,000 to $1,200 range for some of these books that they've retyped and then re-upload as a ebook onto Amazon or any of the other platforms that are available there. So I just want you to know that there are so many different aspects and things that you can do besides what I show you. I'm going to try and touch on more of these in these videos. We're going to obviously keep rolling out the bolos here because, again, the more items you know, the more ability you have to make more money. It's just a given. Because you're not going to find all these items all the time. I have sources for many of the items I show you that I can get constantly over and over and over again. But for the average person, you need a ton of little insider infos to get your business expanded. So again, bolos are going to be a big priority, and then I'm going to start expanding into some of the other areas that you have the ability. And I've touched on some of these, making dioramas and miniatures. That's a big one. A lot of people think, oh, how could I do that? What am I going to do with this? But every day I get somebody talking or sending me a notice or talking about this or commenting or emails. I did this at one time, or I've done this, or I've done that, or people who do Christmas and ornaments and things like that. There are so many varieties of positions and jobs you can do. There are so many other sites. So we're going to touch on a fantasy site in the near future. We're going to touch on a sci-fi site that does artwork and stuff. We're going to touch on some specific art sites. We're going to touch on some doll sites. I'm going to show you some postcard related sites, some stamp sites. There's just a plethora of places that you can do business on. We're on 8 platforms now. We just expanded with the toys. That's going to give us our 8th platform that we make money on. Expanding one's business is key, and it's so easy these days. For just a little bit of effort, you have the opportunity to really expand your business. I just can't express this enough, the drive that it takes, though, to get to this level. There's so many people that are nervous. I was a nervous, wreck at first when we got out of school with nothing going on. So I understand the frustration, the stress level that can be there. But if you don't try something, you're never, ever, ever going to know if you can succeed at it. There's been things in the past that I've, ideas that I've had. And one of the biggest ideas I had was actually, I passed on. I didn't think I could ever do it. Who am I? I'm just some nobody. I passed on it. I didn't do it. I didn't investigate it, and I didn't invest anything in it. 3 years later, somebody else did, and it went skyrocketed. And it was a bummer for me. So I said from that point on, I'm taking the chances. I'm taking the risks. The risk takers are the ones who succeed more so. The ones who don't worry about the consequences to some extent. That we're going to make it or break it. I'm going to throw all my cards on the table, and if we make it, awesome. If we don't, I can never say that I didn't try. I mean, that's the key here. Most of the people who are, successful, they threw their cards on the table. They didn't worry about rejection. They didn't worry about how, it could be embarrassing to them or whatever the case may be. I don't worry about that anymore. Separated again, as I said. So anyway, there's just so many other options out there for you to make money at. There's so many ways to advertise so cheaply. Back in the day, to get your name out there, you used to have to pay for like a full-page ad in a magazine or something, a national magazine, costing tens of thousands of dollars to get your name out there. Nowadays, you can post an ad in Facebook or on a group or on a posting or do an Instagram page and rake in the sales. A key factor is the money it takes to acquire a customer. That has gone down so much with the ability to advertise on sources in Facebook and all these other places. So again, Learn how to do this. Pay some attention to this. I may touch on that if people leave a bunch of comments on that. Um, there are ways to get yourself known. There are ways that, to get your channel, enough views and feedback. I started off with zero just like everybody else. I see many channels that we've surpassed that have been on longer than me, and I'm not saying I'm better than them. I'm just I am who I am. I'm sincere about what I do and what I have a drive for. So I've delved into every aspect of what I do. That's just what you do. Research. You develop your skills on everything. I was a novice when I started on YouTube. I'm still pretty much a novice for the most part, but I'm learning as I go still. I advance my business in every way, shape, or form I can. So again, this is why I'm probably going to go on some other channels, as I've said. I do have one that I promised I would go on first, so I pretty much am a man of my word and things along that line. But again, we're going to be back on track here. We're going to be rolling in the right direction, so to speak. So I'm going to do a few call outs here real quick just to get these out of the way, because I'm terrible on getting back to things because I get talking and then we go on. But I've had some new Patreon support, and I just wanted to call out some of the Patreon folks who are now Patreons on my page. Anna Fuller, Wellman, again, we had some issues here, and she everything's hopefully straight with Anna here. She is now a Patreon. I also have Jilly Getty as a new Patreon. I have Jewel and Greg Gazzardi, Ricky J, Beth Fulmer, and then Mark Stites. So again, I thank everybody who supports me. I thank everybody on my Patreon page. I thank everybody here on my YouTube channel, of course. Without all the feedback, the comments, the support, the thumbs up, the likes, we wouldn't be going very far with the channel. So again, I'm just trying to broaden my appeal to folks too. So anyway, let's see if we have any questions. I do appreciate all the comments. I know there's a bunch of comments been coming in. I just wanted to get some things off my chest and just speak from the heart for a minute there. So again, if you missed the beginning of the video, if you're not interested in hearing personal and things like that, that's fine. Some people are just business as I am. But again, I did talk about my son a lot here. So, family is key here. So anyway, let's go up and see if we do have any questions. I doubt there's going to be a ton, unfortunately. But, if you have some questions, you can pop them out. I did miss Thursdays. I appreciate everybody being on. Let's just see here. Welcome, everybody. I probably won't call out names now because we're very far down into the list. So everybody, I do appreciate everybody here. Let's see where we're at here. Again, thanks everybody for the warm comments and nice thoughts. It's been, a traumatic experience. So again, everything moves on with life. So, anyway. Again, thanks everybody. Everything is back at least on track for now. So just couldn't have happened at a worse time for us. So anyway. Yeah, Brian the Oakbrook Picker. Yeah, I will just comment on this again. I'll reiterate this one more time. Don't ever look up a disease that you've gotten a diagnosis from on WebMD. Don't do it. You won't like it. It's not a happy thing, especially if you're upset. At least wait till things have calmed down to do it. It's pretty straightforward on everything. It's legit information, but most people think the worst of everything. My son's young, he's healthy other than that, and again, as I said, electrical, there's two parts of the heart, the electrical and then the muscles are fine, so it's an electrical issue with my son. Anyway, and we still don't know a cause, so anyway, don't ever look it up on WebMD. That's the one thing I can tell you. Just trust what your doctor says. They're going to be straight up forward with you. We actually have an awesome cardiologist that we're going to be dealing with from this point on. She's a pediatric cardiologist, so she basically just handles kids. And she's the main one at the main hospital where we were at. We went to the best hospital we could, the best pediatric hospital that we could find. So anyway, that's part of, looking into everything. We researched the hospital alone itself, so anyway, let's get off that. Let's go to some happier thoughts here. Let's see here. Nancy with amithia and had all the tests run, stress tests, echocardiograph, and wore the... Yeah, my son has a monitor right now. Halter, that is exactly what he has at this moment. My test showed normal arrhythmia activity. His is not normal at all. We've already figured that out. He has a beat, extra beat. Not all the time. There's no rhythm to it, nor is there a rhyme. It's random. They were going crazy at the hospital because there's two machines the EKG hooks you up to. He's been on a was on a constant EKG monitor for days as well, on and off. Two separate machines they hook you, or two separate devices. One monitors the actual muscle activity, and then the other one monitors the electrical activity. And neither of those were matching. And plus, on top of that, he has a low heartbeat rate in the 35 to 39 range. So that was a little puzzling. And we went back and forth on should we worry and not worry. And when they can't tell you what's going on, that's usually the worst part of it. Especially when they can't give you a reason on why. If they tell you that we were told it's probably been there, and most doctors don't take the time with a patient to have actually heard it. So their response was that it was probably there, this odd beat, and they just didn't listen long enough or didn't pay enough attention, which, I can fully see. They rush you in and out of a doctor's office. That's part of the reason why our health system is not as good as it should be. Everybody dogs on, health care for all, but in the countries that have it, their health outcome is so much greater than ours. These are facts. I don't care if somebody's going to criticize me for this. This is 100% fact. Canada spends so much less than we do, and they have so much better results across the board. I would rather not pay fees and then pay more taxes to cover myself, because you are going to save. And again, people don't look into the facts and judge what people say. I've looked into the facts. I'm not just speaking out of no knowledge here. We took a class in college and we covered this, and again, the facts of the matter is most people on this planet, or at least in this country, would do better off paying more in taxes to be covered, because you are still going to save $4,000 or $5,000. You would never again pay a fee for medicine. You would never again pay a fee for any surgery, nor would there ever be a worry for Medicare or for pre-existing conditions, nor would there ever be a worry of whether you're going to get accepted, nor would there be a worry that your doctor is going to concierge service and is not going to cover you unless you shell out $2,000 a year, even if you don't go to the doctor. These are all things that are happening in this market. There should never be, in my opinion, after having a lot of illnesses and medical scares in my life. I had one myself, so I just feel that medical care should be a right to every man, woman, and child on the planet. It's just the right thing to do. For those of you who read the Bible, it's what the Bible says. So, help one another, help thy neighbor. I mean, I just don't understand why people can't see that life is precious, and, it doesn't stop at birth. It doesn't stop anywhere. So again, I don't want to be political, so let's just get off the subject there. But, this is one of my pet peeves with the way things work these days. I'm not out for money, and I'm not going to screw somebody to get money. When an EpiPen that somebody in my family needs desperately has been raised overnight to a double price, or it costs $600 just in case someone in my family has an issue and could die, it's just crazy. Especially for those who don't make a lot of money, who can't afford insurance, or don't have the luxury of having, money in the bank. Everybody should have coverage. Everybody should be safe and not fear for the life of their child. So anyway, I'll get some hate probably from that, I believe, because of other comments and people that I've talked to. But, you can hate me for what I think, but that's what I think. So anyway, I fully feel for you, Nancy. I'm running through that. It's a scary experience. In my case, there is something that's not regular, that's not supposed to be there. But, we're going to move on. So anyway. Yeah, we're still waiting on the final results. So we don't know yet, Nancy, on all that. We're still doing the stress test. It was late Friday before we even got, the recommendations to get the stress test, or at least the script to get the stress test. So we're just going to wait. Monday morning, first thing in the morning, I call. Then we set up the cardiologist appointments. And then he has some other tests that we still have to do. So anyway, life goes on. I just wish it didn't happen so close to Christmas. And, I hate having my son worry, but we're going to be there every step of the way, whatever it takes. One of us will be there with him, whether we sleep on the floor at the hospital. We're going to be there. So it's family. Let me hop down here. If anybody again has questions, let's try and move off the topic. I don't want to be in a rough state here mentally wise. Let me see here. Yeah, will you take less? That is very true. Again, no one should have to fear for the life of their child because they can't get proper medical care. If you read the news or watch out, there was just a huge medical study by major universities, not just one, but several. The rich, the top 1%, live longer than everybody else. That's a sad case. Everybody should be equal in the life that they can live. The pursuit of life, liberty, the whole works is part of the Constitution. I know it doesn't say medical in there, but, honestly feel that everybody should be able to not fear for their life or not be able to get a prescription filled because they don't have the money to save their own life. I personally know somebody who has major medical issues because they couldn't afford their medicine. People die from this all the time. Every single year there's last report was like 12,000 people from one study alone in just one state died from not having medicine. This is a few years ago, and this was from college, but things like that are logistic, honest things that go on. So, that's a frustration in my life that everybody can't have the same, safety net and feeling that they don't have to worry about the life of one of their family members. The top 1% shouldn't be the only ones that have, a safety net or have that. Everybody should have it. There's countries that do have that they don't worry. I hear people say that, with that, you wait forever for ultrasound or for a CAT scan and things like that. It's just not true. I've been to Canada. My son spent some time in Canada. We live right near Canada. Canada is 40 minutes or less from my house. I've got the passport card to go over the border. It's not like that. Talk to Canadians. Talk to people who have that service. But anyway, I know I keep going on about this, but this is a touched close to home here with having to worry about it. Thank goodness when you go to a pediatric hospital these days, they don't care about that when you get in there. They didn't worry about anything. They just took basic information, then rushed us in immediately. It's good to see that. But still, again, the bill's going to come here. And last time we had one of these issues, the insurance company said they weren't going to cover it. We went in a huge ordeal. So again, these days I don't worry. If I don't pay the bill for something like that, it's the one time I'm not going to stress out about something and keep that out of my mind. So anyway, let's just keep on moving here. Again, thanks everybody for the nice comments. I really honestly appreciate it. Yeah, integrity and honesty. Stephen Rose Resale. I can't speak enough for integrity and honesty. You're going to make some mistakes, and people are going to say that you did it intentionally. It's going to happen. I'm telling you right now. I've got accused of that in the past. But I have never... I cannot... I know I'm on here, and, I could say whatever I want, but I honestly can't think of a time where I've ever tried to swindle, cheat, or be dishonest to make a buck. I wouldn't feel right about that. It wouldn't be an honest buck. It's like the people who run through red lights and stuff and don't worry about the risks or the fact that somebody else is a green light at that same time and you could cause an accident that kills somebody. Or those who talk on their cell phone while they're driving or are texting and driving. I'll talk about a pet peeve here. We've been tracking the amount of people I've had to honk the horn at because they were sitting at a green light on their phone. In 1 week, I had 3 of those. 3. It's getting worse these days, If you check the reports, driving on the phone or texting while you're driving, there's a higher rate of accidents now than drinking and driving. That's a fact. Look it up on the Highway Safety Report. It's a federal posted fact, not just under the current administration, but under the last administration as well. The World Health Organization has actually reported, the WHO, the same exact facts, not just from this country, but from others. So again, I'm not one to drive and text. I don't answer the phone on the road. I don't text while I'm driving. That's my biggest pet peeve these days. Too many people aren't paying attention to the road. The road is 1,000 times more important than whoever is calling you or whatever text you are getting. So Again, I'm sorry, I'm ranting on pet peeves here. You got me in a semi-emotional time. So anyway, health is the best bet. I will keep everybody informed for those who are interested. I know a lot of people here are more about the content, and I'm sorry and apologize for going on about some other issues here, but things touch close to the heart, and you go on from there. Let's see here. Nancy, regarding business, I have to thank you all for teaching as I have some great money recently following your advice. I'm sourcing so much better now. Well, I appreciate that, Nancy. Everybody isn't going to have the same results that I have in honesty. It depends on your experience level and how much you are willing to invest your time into learning these areas. I get comments, how do you know so much? And, I'm astounded by the information, there's only so many vintage items available. There's only so many vintage toys that were made. Once you get the gist on of it, you're gonna realize and be a so much better picker and sourcer than you were when you first started into these areas. So again, there's this, the opportunity these days is so much greater than it was in any other time in my life. I'll say something usually off what I normally wouldn't say, but I'm going to grab it by the balls and I'm going to move forward with what I got. This has reinvigorated my drive. I'm going to be expanding everything I can at this point from this experience. I want to be so much better set for experiences and things that happen, and so much better able to financially do things, to be able to take off and to do vacations and to do more stuff with the family. When my son graduates, he's probably going to be going off to another country to do nuclear, my oldest son, nuclear engineering. So, there's only so much time you have with your kids, your family, your loved ones. So take advantage of that. eBay gives you that time. So again, for nothing other than you hate your job now, give a look at eBay. Give a thought to it. Give a thought to reselling in general, whether it's on Bonanza or Poshmark or any of these other sites. I don't have luck with Poshmark. I don't like clothing. Bonanza I didn't have luck with. Some people do. So, don't always just take my words or my experience on something. Look around yourself too. I'm not the know-all of every aspect of anything. I know a lot, or I should say a little about a lot and a lot about some things. So, I just learn stuff constantly, and I investigate and I invest my time into what I do. I've done this for now 6 years. We're going to be hitting, into our 7th year real soon here. So again, I've had a lot of time doing this. So, everybody can have the same experience and learn the same things. You just need somebody to show you the way and give you some better outlook on things. But anyway. Did you hear that Disney is banning resellers? I worked for Disney for 10 plus years. They've been doing that for years, if you're unaware. Disney has a place for employees only, and we actually used to go to what's called Bargain Basement. It's in the tunnel system of the Magic Kingdom. I believe it's still there. I talked to a friend the other day, and they mentioned it as well too. But we used to source from there, and that used to be the #1 source for Disney collectibles we used to have. We also, as an employee, received a good discount. Plus, we got a bigger discount during the holiday seasons, and we got gift certificates. So I've got friends who still work at Disney, and quite a few, dozens of them still. We worked there, as I said, for 10 years. I've got friends who are managers. I've got one who's director of purchasing for the merchandise. So they handle all this. I heard about that months ago, and longer than that, probably a year or two ago, honestly. So I know all that stuff just because I worked at Disney for a very long time. I have a full pension. My wife's got a full pension from Disney. So when we retire, we have it. Dean Witter handles Disney's pension system. I'm still in contact with Disney people all the time, including just this morning. I talked to somebody who we worked with for Disney for quite some time. So, I have probably a bigger in on Disney than anybody you would know, and I'm not trying to brag. It's just because I worked there for 10 years. I have artwork in Disney as to this current day, including something that's shown in a couple of the books that they publish through the merchandise. I know that because my friend who purchases and buys actually told me that, and I've actually saw it, so I know it's there. But you can see some of my stuff still at Disney that I painted in some of the behind-the-scenes tours. So I do have a real good insight. I did know that. I do appreciate you hollering that out, Brian. They're doing that for a very good reason. They're trying to stop that kind of stuff. For those of you who do retail arbitrage, there's going to be more and more of this going on. I've called this out months ago. I've talked about this specifically in a video. Drop shipping is going to go bye-bye. If you haven't realized that at this point, it's going to go bye-bye for major companies. You're not going to be able to do it off Amazon. You're not going to be able to do it off, Walmart and all these other sites at some point. I can guarantee you they will be doing it. They will hire or create their own department to do it if that's what it takes. And they will market those discounts or hire somebody to do it. They know what's going on. I talk to people at Disney. Disney has been long well aware of this, all the way back before eBay was this huge thing, when we sold on it, when everybody made fun of us for selling on it. 10, 20 years ago, they knew about stuff like this when eBay first started. Again, I'm going to go back to the bargain basement. The bargain basement would sell things from, there's a shop in Disney MGM, I don't think it's MGM Studios anymore, Disney Studios, called Sid Cahuenga's. So for those of you who go there, Sid Cahuenga's sells like lobby cards, stills, posters, artifacts that were used to actually make the movie. And we have some actual full-fledged artifacts. I've been a big Eddie Murphy fan since he was on Saturday Night Live. I have a Bank of Zamundo bill that was actually handheld by him in the movie. I've got documentation. That's just one example. I actually met him. I actually sold Eddie Murphy a candy bar or a chocolate bar at Disney when I worked there. So, we've got ties into all this stuff. When Sid Cahuenga's has damaged goods or they have an influx from the production and advertising department at Disney, a lot of that stuff went down to bargain basement. So we were lucky enough to buy stills and lobby cards and posters, sometimes props, sometimes things that Disney made that were made for actually the parks, like figures and things, or Christmas items that were only made for display. So we used to make a ton of money from the bargain basement. Disney caught on to that after years of it being open and doing it. And, they only allowed you certain items you could buy and or certain amounts of things. Bargain basement back in the day only used to be open one day a week for like 4 hours. But it was 90% off what the price tag was. So something that was $1,000 you get for $100. Sometimes it was even less than that. If it had been in there for a while, it might be, half off, basically 0.5% or something along that line of the actual retail value. So this is a known thing that Disney has been dealing with for a very long time. When Euro Disney opened up, they offered to just the park system employees a limited edition print that was only limited to 1,000 prints, hand signed. I think Ollie Johnson was who signed it. And if you don't know who he is, please look him up. He is a very key animator. I've met him. I have his autograph. We had him do a little sketch. We waited in line a long time. It was an inside thing for a Christmas party for cast members. So, but anyway, this print was available, and they limited it because they knew it was going to be resold. The same day it was listed or offered to the employees, it was selling online on eBay for like $2,600. And again, this, if I remember right, was either free or it was like $9.99 to employees. So this was a huge profit, but they made limitations and all these things to that kind of stuff. Again, because of the reselling. Disney has been fighting resellers longer than you will ever know. You're just getting a glimpse of the new way they're doing it or going after it. Back in the day, and for those of you who are from Florida, and I know exactly which video you're talking about, Brian. I saw a segment of that. Somebody else actually emailed it to me who worked with me at Disney, and that's why I say I talked to somebody from Disney today. Disney sends people, there's a flea market in St. Cloud, Florida that I used to set up at. Disney will send people out to all the local flea markets around the park to see if they can bust people selling stuff that's Disney exclusive or tickets or things like that. So again, Disney does this. This is something that Disney has done for a lifetime. Disney has a lawyer in every state in the union. So I know Disney very, very, very well. I know the inner workings. I know do's and don'ts. I know things that they don't report to the public. I know about deaths that happened on Disney. I was there for several. I know about incidences. I know about fights and stabbings and shootings and things that just don't make it to the news. When somebody dies at Disney, they don't die at Disney. They aren't pronounced dead at the park. They are pronounced dead on the way or at the hospital. Look it up. That's a fact. Disney is we'll talk about Florida here. Disney is a 43 square mile property that is the only place in this country that polices and monitors their own stuff. They are the only place like this in the country. They have their own police force. They've got their own fire department. It's the Reedy Creek Improvement District is what it is called. So they set their own speed limits to some extent. You know, there's a lot more to it. They do have an open order for the I think it's the Orange County Police Department. I think that's what Orlando was. It's been a while since I've thought about that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. There are police officers there that are stationed there full-time as well, too, because some cases have to be up to state level. Some are turned over and things like that. I have friends who are actually Disney security guards who had worked there for 20-plus years, so I hear things about stuff as well, too, and I know who to ask if I have questions. Same with authenticating items and things like that. Again, I worked for Disney for quite some time. I've got a decade in at Disney myself, and I did artwork, I did attractions, I did foods. We did studio catering company. We catered to functions and things like that. So I've got a very strong history with Disney. Again, let's go on here. I don't want to waste a ton of time. I know I talk a lot on things like that, but Disney, you're a number, and you know I enjoyed the people I worked with at Disney, but I did not enjoy the job. It's monotonous. It goes on and on. It's the same thing day after day. But anyway, thanks for the comment, though, Brian. You are completely right. Watch the snakes. Not sure on the Watch the Snakes comment. Let's see here. How you doing, Jersey Pickens? Yeah, I'm glad to be back on, Valerie. Thank you. Let's see here. Jerry Reiner. Before I call eBay over an item not delivered case, should I really expect eBay to help the buyer or myself? The buyer and I are cool. I'm in a guaranteed delivery program. So if you're saying that the item wasn't delivered is what the seller is, or the buyer is saying, Jerry, if the tracking for the post office shows that it was delivered, all you got to do is call eBay and they will close the case. It doesn't matter if the guy didn't get it or not. It is now the responsibility of the post office. I'm actually going to go into this now in a video real quick here in this week here. I'm shooting a special video on this because I've had several questions. This time of year is the worst for the post office to track your packages or do your initial scan. I've got some dings lately, which I was very perturbed about, and it turns out the post office hasn't been scanning it. I've been using I use another site to create a master scan sheet. It's a site that I've used for a long time. I'm not going to call it any names because we're dropping it. And I've had items that I've recorded on the master scan sheet that aren't counting. So there's something wrong with this second or third party that's supposed to promise you scans from the master scan sheet. So I have now switched. I do everything in bulk shipping out of eBay. The only problem with that, they don't have bulk shipping for foreign shipments, and I do a lot. So there is some issues with it. They promised me, I've talked to them about this, that they're going to address that. But right now, you are going to be running into more issues of the post office not scanning stuff on the first scan. I've had items that I shipped out on one day on a Friday morning that were picked up at my house at 3 that aren't scanned in until Tuesday. So again, at this point, I have been very assured that the scans through eBay are guaranteed 100%. Save a copy of it, and eBay will correct any issues that don't show in your favor by that scan sheet. That is the 100% way that you are going to cover yourself. So let's say, Jerry, that item wasn't scanned as being shipped. That's going to cover you from there. So if you can get it scanned from this master scan sheet through Disney bulk shipping, you are so much better off than having a third party do it. A third party does not necessarily have the complete tie-ins as eBay does. eBay has the volume. I know there are some third-party sites that are great and their master scan sheet works because I've talked to many people, I investigated it, but I'm not willing to pay extra for something I can get from eBay. I'm going to show you a surefire way to modify your shipping methods to produce a scan sheet without any problem. It's going to be simpleton. It does not increase my time of shipping, and if anything, it actually decreases my time for shipping. It saves me a few minutes off my shipping time by shipping in bulk. Now, I know people say that they've had better results shipping one by one and it's quicker. I'm going to go over that in a video, as I said. I've already got it all planned out. The whole works. I've already addressed it in my head. You can save some time. Don't trust other things. eBay's bulk shipping, as long as you can keep the copy of the slip and have it. It's official. They have to take that slip as evidence that you shipped those items. So again, if you get dinged for not shipping on time because the post office didn't do that initial scan, you're covered with that sheet if it goes over your limit and they ding you for it and you lose your top rated plus status or whatever status you're at. So again, we're going to touch on that. On that, Jerry, it depends on how long it's been gone too on that item. eBay considers an item lost in shipment if it's been 10 days from the last scan, the last postal scan. So if there's a postal scan that says on November 30th it was in a specific city, 10 full business days from that date is going to be, well, 10 plus. It'll be the 10 days in 1 hour. eBay will consider that item lost, and that is when they will say that they can close a case. I've went over this before with them. That is their internal memo says that 10 full days from the day of last scan. They understand that some things aren't scanned. So eBay does do the right thing in my book. If the item doesn't show up and there's no scan showing it showed up, they side with the buyer. That's what I as a buyer would expect. That's what Amazon does. So I don't personally have an issue with that. It is frustrating. We currently have a gift for one of my kids that shows that it was delivered, but it's not here. So again, it just came up on Friday. The person who sold it to me was insulting to me, just over me asking. I made the comment that it would have been nice to have the scan tracking number put up on the listing so I could have found out about it the day that it was to arrive. So if it didn't show up, I would know. They made a very derogatory and insulting, from what I see too, false statement to me about the issue. So anyway, long story short, eBay sided with them, and I'm out the item at this point. So I completely understand both aspects of this. I'm not saying I won't get the item, but I'll have to go down to the post office. One issue with eBay's going by the tracking. eBay, looking at the tracking number that's provided, has no way on earth to say that it was delivered to your address. eBay is lying when they say that. You will get a notice saying that tracking shows that it was delivered to your address. That is 100% a lie. This is one of the issues that I can say eBay is not honest with, because the tracking only shows that it was delivered to your zip code. The only way you can track down where it was delivered is if you go to the post office and ask for a complete breakdown on that item tracking. The post office, if you don't know, actually has global tracking. They can actually GPS where that item was delivered, believe it or not. So, that shows up on these sheets. I've seen them before. I've requested them before. You can get them from the postmaster. It's a long sheet. It shows so much more information than you see as a general person. So just keep that in mind. So I don't know if that helps you out at all, Jerry. I wouldn't worry if it's an item that you sold and it hasn't been delivered. It's a tough one to say whether you give them out the money or you let eBay do it. If you don't take care of it, they can leave you negative feedback. Unless it shows that it was delivered through tracking, then you can't leave feedback if a case was open, because eBay will side with the other person. So eBay's going to side with whoever can prove that it was delivered. So if you can prove it was delivered to this person through tracking, you're clear. So hopefully, Jerry, that answers it. I'm not sure the exact specifics. You're welcome to add that information there, and we can go on from there. Let's see here. Stephen Rose resells. The postcard-wise on the site, though, I recommend using eBay over it, but I'm just going to show that if that's what the postcards is. Cheryl Schulp, welcome. Well, I appreciate it. Black Crystal Dice, welcome. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, if the item shows it was delivered 3LD, 100% eBay sides with the seller every time. It's in the guidelines. It's in their rules. It's in the policies and procedures. 100% of the time, if the tracking shows that the item was delivered, eBay will 100% side with you. All you got to do is call them up and have them do that. Every time. I've had it done many, many times. 100%, Jerry. 100%, without a question, they will always side with the seller if you can show that it was delivered through tracking, even if it doesn't show the address, as long as it's their zip code. So anyway, and they won't do anything. And if let's say the buyer still opens up the case and says, hey, something, that's a separate issue. Once the case has been closed, they can't leave feedback against you no matter what happens from that point. Derogatory. They only can leave good feedback. And if they leave good feedback and leave a negative comment, that's removed too. So I've been feeling much better about things the way eBay's doing it. I have had every case this year sided in my behalf as a seller. Every single case, because I paid attention. All it takes is them saying the wrong thing or looking at their history, and they'll side. At least you'll get your money back. They'll do a courtesy refund for you if you're out the money in the most case. If it's the first time it's happened to you, go on about it. You talk to the right person, you're going to get some results. For those of you who don't have U.S. support, it's a little harder. It's harder to get that cultural differences over through to some folks. No insult or meant towards that, but it's just a fact of life because people have a whole different society. Things are different. So anyway, let's move on here. Definitely interested in getting precise on Instagram. There's a lot of potential there. Yeah, I don't do Instagram. I've had a lot of people tell me I'm stupid for not doing Instagram. I can get some more feedback. I'm not really interested in it. It's hard enough to keep up with Facebook. Facebook changes stuff so often. They change the photo that I have, so you'll see one of our accounts literally has placed photo here. A lot of people have started to do that out of protest with what Facebook's doing. Facebook in no way is safe with your data or mine. I never use Facebook to sign into anything. If you're doing it, stop that ability. Cancel out all the third-party logins. Do not ever allow any account of yours to be logged in through a Facebook login. It's just not safe. Facebook has been breached so many times. There is no security. Mark Zuckerberg hasn't a clue, apparently, on how to control what he's created. There's even been talk of having him step down from the company, his own company. So I'm not a fan of Facebook these days. There's a lot of negative stuff going around on Facebook. So I'm hesitant to get into Instagram. I'm not, again, trying to market my service. If I get into Instagram, it's going to be to promote my toys on a toy basis or something along that line. Just because most of my money, the huge amount of my business, the vast majority of it is from selling stuff on online sites, not from marketing stuff or making money off Instagram or Facebook or anything like that. Again, there's nothing wrong with people doing that. I don't have any problem whatsoever with people making money off of these sites or any of these other places. That's their model. It's a legal thing. It's a legit thing. It's capitalism. I'm not bothered by it. Just as long as that's what their business model is and that's what they say their business model is, I'm fine. I hate, though, the hidden secret advertising ways, or that they'll say, hey, check this out, and then it'll lead you to a service that you have to pay for just to see it. Just be plain and simple. Like, I have a Patreon group. It's a paid group. I'm telling you that up front. Patreon is a paid site. I'm not hiding anything. It helps support this channel, though, so, I'm doing it for a specific reason. It helps to justify my time, my ability to put these videos up. So that's why I'm so grateful that people allow me to be able to do this, and they appreciate what I do enough to invest some of their own hard-earned money into it. Every dime is precious in a business, so that's why I'm so grateful for these. I'm not as emotional person as a lot of people. I've had a hard life, from whenever I can imagine and remember, so I'm grateful for what I get. I don't mind donating or helping other people, but it's really got to be something that helps me as well, too. So anyway, let me go down here and let's see where we're at. Again, I'm out in the country, so my feed sometimes pops on and off. Let me pop up because I've just lost a whole bunch of comments. I have to pop back up here too. I'm not sure what everybody else's experience is with the chat on here, but it's dropped me down. Oh, geez, I don't know how far down I am now. Okay, now we're back to normal. I know I've got a ton that I haven't even looked at yet, so let me pop back down to where we were. Let's see here. Give me just a second to get caught back up, folks. Hopefully everybody can hear me now. I think we've got the quality looks a little better today. We spent a little more time here this past week prior to everything going on with my son. So again, I've got more things going on. I've got a second cam, as I've said. So you're going to see some different things that other channels aren't showing. I'm, again, not trying to brag, but I'm trying the best way to show you things. And I've had many people ask on live dig-throughs through hauls. So I'm going to, again, I've talked about this many times. I've got a video capture card coming in. So as soon as that shows up, you're going to be able to see some of me flipping through stacks of postcards and picking out firsthand as I get them I've got like 2,000 postcards sitting there that I purchased just to come on air and do a live pick through, so I can show you what I look for, and I'll address on the cards as we get them. You can make comments. And so for those of you wondering on things, I think that's going to be an immense help. And I'm going to do that for some other items. We're going to do that on some things. So again, technology wise, things aren't as quick and easy to get set up, and certain items like my webcams have to be USB 3 and things along that line, and many laptops only have one USB 3, so we've had to do some digging. I had to get some more technical devices and things too. So anyway, that's where some of my Patreon money is going. I haven't made a dime off any money off of YouTube or honestly Patreon at this point. It's about a break-even point. And I'm giving you the straight dope here. By the time I've got labor involved, I usually have an employee working those evenings. I have people that help edit my videos. I've spent on mics. I've spent on webcams. I've got lighting. I've now got 3 sets of lights. So I've got 6 big lighting setups, you know, the big photo lights. So all this stuff is investment into this. So you know, it helps get things across. It's helped promote my business somewhat too. So I do more increase in sales. So that's where I'm making some money. But anyway, let's slide down here. Again, the feed is terrible where I live. I don't know if it's just YouTube in general, but Mark, question: anyone having nonstop issues with PayPal lately? I honestly haven't had a single issue with PayPal, so it depends on what issues you're having. From our end, don't have any issues. I haven't had issues with PayPal, and I couldn't tell you the last time I had an issue with PayPal. The only thing I can tell you is that twice in 5 years I've had my PayPal card hacked. I don't use a card anywhere anymore these days unless it's chip, and only when it's a customer-only slide. But twice it's been hacked where someone has taken $400 out, which is the daily limit. I keep it low. I'm not interested in raising anything. I have notifications activated. I've called PayPal and asked anything I can do to solve these issues. I've got notes on my account, so the only way a long or out of state charge would not be reported as a hack into my account would be if I call them and say, hey, I'm going to be out of town. That's the only way that works. They've honored both of those times, immediately took care of it and refunded the $400, investigated, solved it, pulled up records, and did everything for me. I didn't have a single thing to worry about with PayPal. So again, I don't have any issues. I know they offer now the immediate payment and stuff. We don't do that. I just transfer it to a bank account for free. There's no wait. There's no fee to pay. It takes 24 business hours, or 24 hours. It's usually in one day. So again, PayPal has been great for us. I'll be happy to lower the fees with Aiden. So hopefully that's a better thing. Aiden, I think, is what we have on Etsy, if I'm not mistaken. I don't do a ton on Etsy these days because our business has been straying towards some of the sci-fi related items and things that we sell on other sites. So that's what's led me into toys and things in general. I watch Tested. Adam Savage is Tested. That's kind of where I got the gist on contacting Tenacious Toys, which is who now is going to be putting our stuff on their site. I'll have my own page on their site. They'll put some information. They're going to take us to shows and things like that too. So anyway. The Bearded Picker. You never know what video will go crazy. Keep making content. Well, thank you. I have seen some of your videos as well, too. Bearded Picker does have a decent channel. Everybody has their own flair and touch on things, and I do enjoy seeing some channels. I haven't had as much time since I've been doing my own videos to watch many channels at all. But I always enjoy watching other channels and seeing other aspects of it. I learn stuff every day, so if you're not willing to do that, you're not interested in doing that, you're probably in the wrong business, in all honesty. So you got to love what you do. And I know most of the people that I see and I watch do love what they do. They're not just doing it as a job. I've said this before, and earlier in this video even, I would still mess around with eBay, even if I wasn't making money at it, even as a hobby. I like it. It's a treasure hunt. I do stuff like that. It's just a fun experience. It's a time thing. It's fun. It's enjoyable. We do this all as a family too. Let's see here. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, the bearded picker. We've went through that scare with my wife. We did. She had a CT. She had an MRI. She had the dye test for breast cancer. So her mom had it. So it's something in the family. So we've got attacks on both sides of us. So medical wise, I feel for people these days, and that's the reason I personally feel that it should be Medicare for all, or some system. I think everybody in this country should have the right to live a healthy life and to have medical access. And again, I don't want to keep getting on this subject, but the bearded picker is a perfect example of why I'm just so emotional over these issues. You know, seeing oh geez, I don't want to get emotional again, but seeing a loved one in the hospital, not knowing what's going on, the last thing someone wants to worry about is how in the world are you going to pay for this? Is this going to strap you for life? Is this going to be a crusher for your family? No one should ever have to have medical issues because of medical issues, and stress is one of the biggest killers around for many people. High blood pressure, arises from this. I went through the whole breast cancer scare with my wife where we thought for sure this was it. They found a lump that we went through. It was just a terrible experience. So I really feel for you. You know, um, I'm saddened by things like that more than anything else. It's just a terrible experience. And for me, with having lost a father, Easter Sunday on when I was 17 years old, I was an adult. It was a very saddening experience. He died on Easter Sunday on jeez on the Wednesday of his funeral. I was in a terrible car accident. I wasn't in my right mind. I rolled a car on Telegraph Road in Michigan, rolled over seven or eight times. We ended up in a creek underwater, went through a bunch of trees. Anyway, long story short, it was it was something that will never leave my psyche, and it's one of those factors that will haunt you for the rest of your life. I should have been on the road. I didn't take it very well. Me and my father were very close. I was just starting to know him more than ever in my life and talked about things and stuff. And, he died of a heart attack. So coming in with the child and knowing that there's family issues related with hearts, I have some issues myself. I have issues from the car accident still with permanent scars. I have issues from other accidents. I have, a spider bite that has, diminished certain aspects of what I do, and things that I can do from internal issues like pancreas issues. So everybody has their issues, and it would just be so nice in life to not have to worry about paying a bill, or how are you going to do this, or how are you going to cover this. And I've been there. I feel for you, bearded picker. We went through a identical scare. Ours was a scare, thank God. So I pray for you and hope things do work out good for you. The prognosis these days, as long as they catch it early, is good. We went through everything. It was a 2-month ordeal for us by the time, with biopsies and all the scans my wife had, and she gets claustrophobic, and the magnet sound and CTIs, MRIs, ultrasounds, everything we had and went through, and it's just been one thing after another. So again, stop worrying about eBay issues and worry about your life and take business separate. That's all I can say. This whole thing's emotional for so many people, and it's not worth wasting your stress level and your life on business when your life is what's so much more important to you. Whatever your life, whatever your beliefs, your religion, or whatever it is, keep all of that separate from business. So anyway, let's go on to some questions here. I do wish you well, bearded picker. So again, thanks for all the comments. Let's see here. Thank you, the truth. Jerry, if you know where the package is on that, call up that post office and tell them that you are doing a search on it now and it says it's there. I have had to do that. And then sure enough, right after I called, it has shown up at their location in just a day or so. So do the call if you are worried. If it hasn't shown delivered, though, you are out the money if it doesn't get delivered. So I personally do those phone calls. I very rarely have one that gets lost. So it's only been one here, one there. Call the Des Moines post office and ask if they can tell you what happened to that package. You've got tracking to prove that it shows it's in their possession. They are responsible to do something for that. So do that, Jerry, if I was you. That's exactly what I personally do every time that happens, as long as I have a tracking to show where the item is at. So anyway. Medicare for all, Sharif, would be cheaper for everybody in every way, shape, or form. I know people say, well, it's $4,000 extra dollars a year. You're already paying more than that in health. I mean, just having insurance costs way more than that for the average person. You're thinking, premiums are $1,000 for an average family of four. That's $12,000. So if you're paying $4,000 more in taxes, you just saved $8,000 for having insurance, and you don't have any extra bills. Even with you paying $1,000 in premiums a month for insurance, you still have to pay, your share of it, your amounts for the medicine or the benefits or whatever else, and it usually doesn't cover everything. You still have to pay out of pocket on top of that. So for those people who haven't looked into the math or just taking what some politician has told you is why they don't want it, or some news channel saying, hey, that's not how it works, that's not true. I've looked into it from an outside standpoint. Even from our own government report shows that that's not true. Even from this administration and the last administration. It's not a party issue. It's a money issue, because a lot of the politicians that are in our country get money and donations from most of these insurance companies. Look at who pays them. Look at who donates money. That's mostly available to us, unless it's for a super PAC, and then it's all hidden and you can't know what they're getting. I try to be for the folks who don't take corporate funds. So anyway, I'm not going to give out my political affiliations. It has no business in bearing on this. But anyway, Medicare for all, or some form of health care for every man, woman, and child in this country, is what we all deserve and what we all need for the health and well-being of your children, your loved ones, your mother, your daughter, for those of folks who have people in nursing homes or are under care. It's expensive. It shouldn't be. You should be able to not worry about that. But enough on that. I keep going on about that because of my situation. But anyway, let's go down and see where we're at here. Let's see here. Yeah, Stephen Rose resells. Tracking always helps. I track everything through eBay. I print every receipt through the site that I sold it on. And I do that because then it is tied with them, and I can 100% bona fide prove to that site. Like if I print through eBay as opposed to printing through somewhere else, I can 100% guarantee them that it was shipped through them for that item because it's tied to that address. So I always ship through the site, and it immediately posts the tracking. Now, again, as I said, I do bulk shipping now. We started that full-time just a matter of a week ago when I got fed up with the post office not scanning in my items after I was promised. And even though I was using a scan sheet from a third-party site, that scan sheet had items that still weren't scanned. How that can be, I don't know, but it's a glitch in their system. I know eBay's works. I have never heard of a complaint from eBay's master scan sheet not working. The only complaint I hear is over the international shipping issues, which they say can work. They gave me a link to say go ship them through this other spot on eBay, but that link does not work. So eBay does have a technical issue with that. So anyway, I'm going to call them on that on Monday. I just wanted to have this weekend kind of free here. So anyway. Moonshine Fuel, you Medicare is taxing you, but that's your money and the company pays it. That's not necessarily the same thing, and the percentage is so small it doesn't cover you on healthcare. Actually, I'm talking specifically on an actual full-fledged healthcare that covers every man, woman, and child, like Canada or pretty much the entire world does, other than us. We are one of the only countries that has it this way. It's pretty sad when Costa Rica and Cuba has better medical system and better medical outcomes than we do. Those are facts. We are number 38 on the planet in healthcare outcomes, and 38 in all the aspects of healthcare. We are in no way number one. Look it up. Look at the WHO. Look at our own government's page, which shows where we rank. We don't pay anything for, basically, you pay Medicare. That's about all people pay, and that's basically for retirement. You know, as a business, we pay for workman's comp and things like that too, which is a legit charge. I don't have a problem with that. But overall, you are not paying for actual health care per se from any of the taxes that you have. Sure, some taxes go to some folks who can't afford health care, you know, and that drives me crazy because not that they do that everybody doesn't have free health care. You know, they say it's not doable. I don't see that as the case. We can send billions overseas bombing somebody, but we can't spend it on newborns or infants or feeding the poor or the hungry. You know, for those of the folks who follow the Bible, read the Bible. Feed thy neighbor. I dumbfounded every time I see people saying we shouldn't help these people. We shouldn't help somebody. You know, anyway, I don't want to get political again. I'm sorry. I don't mean to do that here. Let's see here. True on healthcare, something as a precious life should not be based on industry designs to maximize profits. Yes. The top 1% shouldn't have better outcomes than the bottom percentage of this country. And yes, Diego, you are correct. It is not good in this. We are in the third world country category of healthcare. That is a fact. I can't express that enough. I've delved into this for months. I'm not trusting government officials. I'm not trusting specific sites or news channels to get this information out. It's there for you to look up. It's on not just government sites, but tons of watchdog sites, the WHO, the World Health Organization. There's international companies, not companies per se, but nonprofit organizations that can show you without a doubt that the facts are there. We are, like, as I said, in the high 30s, and we've gone down. We've gotten... Our number of where we stand has gotten worse in the last few decades or last decade. So we have no good healthcare system overall. I'm not saying the people who provide the service, like the nurses and doctors, don't do a good job, but you know, they're hamstringed by so many aspects of it. I worked for restaurants as a general manager in a regional. Every place I worked, there are pharmaceutical companies that would come in and buy lunch for the entire doctor's office just to push their drugs. That's wrong. That should never exist when they're spending in my restaurant alone, you know, $500 in one day to basically bribe a doctor's office to push their drugs. Look at the epidemic and the people dying. 30,000 people have died from a specific drug in this country that they have known for decades is wrong, but it's still being pushed in the same aspect of it. In this state I live in, it's been a huge thing. Thousands of people are dying a year where I live from legal drugs. That's crazy. You know, that just shows you that they're not concerned about life, because there's things like a kid chokes on a Weeble from the 70s. Six kids died, and they changed the law on what they can sell, but they don't change the law when 30,000 people a year die from a prescription drug. It's a money thing. I took in college, there's, for those of you who don't know how research and things are done, there's a thing called profit analysis. So basically, in some of how this works, cost benefit analysis is what it is. So people die. This issue was first brought up in a class we were covering for how many people died from tobacco smoke. They justify continuing to sell things that kill people because cost-benefit analysis says that it's cheaper to pay for the death of 12 people for multi-million-dollar lawsuits than it is to stop selling it. They make more money by continuing it. It's not a factor in them not stopping to selling it because they'd rather shell out $2 million to each person that dies to their family because they're making $10 million above and beyond that for every person that dies. This is a fact of life. Look up cost-benefit analysis and look up tobacco industry, and you will see that for decades they've known this, and they've figured this into their actual, their economic business plan. It's in there already. That's sad as can be that the market has turned into a aspect where the people are more worried about making the money and literally considering life secondary to what they do. That's a fact. These are all information that you can find. But again, I'm sorry, I keep digressing. The health issues are a concern for us. So anyway, let's change the subject here. I'm sorry. Yes, no one should go bankrupt because they can't afford their bills. And it is all about money. We all know that, obviously. Medicare is not a right. It's not a right, but it should be a right. So, and I would challenge anybody to that. Life, liberty is in the Constitution. It's in the Bible to help one's neighbor and one's friend and to be graceful and stuff. So, every aspect of it says you should help everybody. The folks who don't believe that healthcare should be a right, let's see what happens when they don't have any money and can't afford surgery for their child, and their child is going to die if they can't get it. I just can't fathom the aspect of it. I'll probably lose subscribers and things like that for saying this, but that's how I feel. Everybody should not have to worry. We are the only country on the planet who doesn't guarantee this kind of stuff. Almost every country out there, Cuba, for crying out loud, and Costa Rica have so much better outcomes than us, and every citizen in those countries can get health care. I just, it dumbfounds me. We're the richest country on the planet, but we can't help anybody. But we can spend trillions of dollars on bombing and killing people. So I'm not saying it's not necessary in some aspects of it, but our priorities are in the wrong place. That's all I can say. Let's see where we're at. Yeah, Nancy, it just depends on age and factors in health on the heart rate. We did go into that at the hospital. Many nurses made comments on that. His health, his rate is low, and making comments. So it was a concern for them, but, the doctor herself didn't have a concern. My son does drill, and he's always active, 5 days a week he goes an hour early, and they do drill things, and they run and push-ups and all that. So, I instill in my kids, dedication and stick-to-itness. So anyway. Well, if you don't have health care coverage in the U.S., they will tax you. So it's not, if you're talking about the tax for those who don't get health care, that's a small drop in the bucket. And it's mostly younger people who seem to not want the health care, thinking it's going to save them money. My son is not an adult. He's a minor. So, you know, age has no factor in who needs or doesn't need insurance. Every day I hear a story of someone who didn't think they needed insurance who now has some major aspect in their life. Everybody should have it. There shouldn't be any tax on those who are forced to get it, in my opinion. But everybody should have it, and if it means there's a tax across the board, that's fine, because everybody at some point is going to have to go to a doctor. Everybody is going to age and have issues at the ends of their life. So nursing homes or home care or whatever you have, there isn't a person on this planet that probably won't need some issue or some type of surgery where you'll need it. For those who have family, you know more than anybody else. Just giving birth to a child is tens of thousands of dollars. Our kids were both in neonatal intensive care. My youngest was in there 10 days or more after my wife was able to be discharged from the hospital. The bill alone was over $100,000. No one should have to go bankrupt to live, No one should have to be worried about paying for a prescription that they need to live. We are the only civilized country on the planet who doesn't help their citizens. I just can't get that enough to people. Why can every other country do it? How is that possible? Why is it only the richest country in the world? The richest country in the world cannot help people. It makes no sense. And, our motto is, "In God we trust," and all these other comments about God and religion and the Bible. If they followed what the Bible said, they would be helping these people. They wouldn't be cutting off coverage or help or a safety net for people. I've been on the bottom end of everything. We've had nothing. I know what it's like to be there. I've also been to a spot where we are now, where we don't worry so much about things like that anymore. So I've seen it from both ends. The folks who are making money off of this do not live like we do. They don't go shopping where we do. They don't live where we do. They live in gated communities. They don't have to deal with this. You're not going to see, for the most part, these people standing in lines at department stores or food. A lot of these people have people that shop for them, that cook for them. Some people in these groups that make millions of dollars off of insurance have 10 or 15 people working at their house alone. You know, they don't relate to us. They don't think about us. They're only worried about getting money from you, telling you that you can't afford insurance or the country can't afford insurance. They can't afford these things to help people. They can't afford it. But meanwhile, their medical outcome is better than ours by such a huge amount of difference. It's crazy. The compensation packages are horrendous. They didn't used to be like this. They're not like that in other countries anywhere in the civilized world. Why are we the only country on the planet like that? But again, I'm sorry, I keep venting on the medical. Everybody else seems to have similar issues and results and feelings. The majority of this country feels that that is the case. And the vast majority, these are national statistics. These are national surveys by both parties, by independent organizations, by organizations from other countries that have done surveys in this country. The vast majority of this country feels that everybody should be covered. They do not feel that a pre-existing condition should be any benefit or waiver on anything. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't count. It's a money-saving thing. Why they don't want to do pre-existing conditions. It all goes back to money. The EpiPen is a perfect example on how people are. They don't care about health. They'll buy a patent on a medicine so that they can go ahead and raise the price on it to make a ton of money. They don't research. They don't develop. They don't do anything. They're just looking to dog and buy something to make money. Yeah, I'm here to make some money too, don't get me wrong, but I would never jeopardize anybody's health, well-being, or life to do that. It's crazy. It's crazy in my book. But anyway, let's try to keep the questions to eBay. I'm sorry again. I do go off on these. Yeah, Kimbra, they don't allow you to do that in this country. You can't have them keep somebody to it. They'll release you from the hospital and you will be billed dollar for dollar, and the insurance will not cover it if they tell you you are free and clear. They don't worry about that. That's another going right back to healthcare is not a right, even though it should be. It shouldn't be a right. It should just be a given. Everybody should have the right to life. That is in the Constitution. If they're telling you don't have the right to have insurance to be able to afford a pill, they're not giving you the right to life, because so many people live by the medicine and would be dead. Every year, tens of thousands of people are dying from certain issues just like that. The elderly, the old, who can't afford heat in their house and things along that line. It all goes into helping people. And, it's Christmas season. It just dumbfounds me that, it is a frustrating issue for me, just because we've had medical issues in the family, and we've had child sicknesses, and my son was a neonatal, and we went through that when one of them was born, and the other one was born deceased, legally dead, and was resuscitated there in the hospital at birth and delivery. So I've had some mega bills. You'd be shocked. They charge you $68 for a blanket at the hospital that you don't get to keep. They charge you $38 for a little plastic water container that, most people don't even keep. It shows up on your bill. Have you ever looked through your bills? But anyway, let's get off the subject. I'm sorry. I keep going on about that. Medical-wise, we've got a lot going on here, so. Let's see here. Yeah, moonshine, fuel. I'd be fine with them taxing beer, whatever they tax. Tax luxury items that aren't necessary. It doesn't matter what they do. I'm not saying it has to be something funded in any specific way. I just feel that everybody should have the right to be able to be healthy and take care of their kids without worrying about being destitute or not being able to afford their medicine. I know people who cut pills in half, trying to stretch it out when it's not good for them to do that, just because they have no other way to do it. A lot of elderly people, people's parents, your grandparents have these issues right this very minute. You can go over the Michigan line, or not Michigan, I'm sorry, you can go over the Canadian into Canada and get the exact same medicine produced at the exact same factories for a third, a quarter, or even a tenth of the cost as they sell it to us. We pay for research and development for the drugs while other countries do not, because they control their drug market. They control all of this. It's not just about money in other countries. It's just a fact, and again, goes back to us being the only country on the planet that does this, allows this. Most countries do not allow pharmaceutical companies to even advertise their wares like they do in this country. And I'm always fascinated and shocked by the side effects of all these drugs. The Rock has a real good one on Saturday Night Live about a drug. If you haven't seen it, type in The Rock, SNL. I don't remember what the drug name was, but just type in SNL, The Rock, and watch that. That's just a real funny one there that gave me a kick about, how they criticize the side effects, though. But anyway. Black Crystal Dice, I know people as well, the same thing, that cannot afford their medicine. Anyway, let's try to get onto a happier topic here. Yeah, call 3LD. Call the people when that happens. I always call the actual post office. I track down it. I get the number. It's a little hard sometimes if there's like multiple post offices in the same zone area. But I'll call a couple until I get the right one. And I've had to do that, and it's always been productive. And usually within a day or so, they pick up that package, as long as you get somebody who's interested in helping you on the phone at the post office. Let's see here. Where are we at? Let's see here. We've just lost my feed again. There we go. It's back up. Let's see here. Empathy is lacking. That is completely right. That is the problem. It's more into monies. It's always about money. It always comes down to money in every single aspect of anybody who has it. Not everybody is like that. There's people who are philanthropists and donate a large chunk of their money. These days I don't get to donate a lot because we don't have financial stability in this country. Anybody does. My brother has a engineering computer degree. He's had it for years. He worked at the university. He was laid off from the university in 3 years. He's had 3 different jobs with a strong background. He knows what he's doing, but that's the market, especially where we're at. Detroit's closing. He worked in Detroit. They're closing everything down all over the place. Factories are going under and shutting and moving overseas. There's no loyalty. It's not like it used to be. So anyway, we make the best of it. That's why I don't concern myself with the minor petty things anymore. There's so much other things to take your time and concern with. Well, thank you, Jerry. I appreciate that. Is there any way to eBay without... I'm not sure what that says. I'm not a business, so from my understanding, I cannot go the merchant services route. Any other suggestions? Without PayPal, you can set up an Aiden account, from what I understand, if you don't wish to do PayPal at all, and you can sell as an individual without a business for that one there, Mark. So you just immediately start with an Aiden account. They do not allow payment through check or cash, but if you set it up as a local pickup, you can take payment any way you basically want, because you manually click that you are getting the payment in. So that is something that I do as well too, occasionally. Let's see, where are we at? Let's pop down just a little bit here. Sharif, let's see. After going to so many auctions over the years, knowledge is just something you pick up. That is correct. You will definitely start seeing the same things. As I said, there are only so many vintage items. They're not making 1950s toys anymore. So, there's only so many of any of these items you can get. Now, 1970, let's say 1980, I guess would be a big draw factor. From 1980 on, the markets are flooded with every company in the world trying to make money. The last 20 years, it's so much worse. For every item out there, there's tens of different other, or even hundreds or thousands of other manufacturers making the same items. It wasn't like that 1980 and down. And go, the farther back you go, the less manufacturers there are, and the less of certain items are available. So you're going to learn through just sheer experience. So that's why I know so many of these items. There's only so many antique bottles. There's only so many antique china. There's only so many toys or postcards or photos or books or doodads or collectibles or brass items. Everything I sell and show you, there's a limited number of them. Once you get the basics and the knowledge on it, you're going to do so much better because you're going to understand that, hey, this is all there is to it. And then you'll be able to see money here, money there, where other people just see some piece of junk sitting on a shelf. That's the plus to this. The more you know, the better you're going to do. The more items you know, the more categories you know, the more bolos you know, the better you're going to do. It's just a given. There's no way around it. Let's see where we're at. Rick Rude. Well, thank you very kindly. You have a decent market in the UK. There's several other folks that I talk to now from the UK. Some are on the feed, not today. I don't see the other two folks, but I talked to several from the UK. When we worked at Disney, we had multiple people who worked with us from the UK. I actually dated a girl back in high school who was born in England. Her father was, obviously British. Anyway, she has since passed away back in the day, but, I have a good affiliation with England in general. And I always conversed with folks when we worked at Disney. It was always fun to guess where they were from. After a while, I was able to tell where people were from, even in the UK, Welsh accent, and such forth, or, even just in England in general with, Irish. And in some places, you could even tell where people were from with like a Liverpool or something like that accent. But anyway, it's been a while. Usually we had guessing games and we could guess where people were from. Most people were great and had fun with it. And even the customers and the guests there, played along most of the time. So anyway. Do you get a lifetime pass when you retire? You have to be there 20 years to get a lifetime pass. That was the draw when we were there. After 20 years, you got a lifetime pass. When you worked at Disney as a regular employee, you got a gate pass. Depending on the time frame you worked there, there was some stipulations and things you could do. Your discount rate went up the longer you were there. We hit the 10-year mark, so I never got, obviously a lifetime pass. I do have friends who have a lifetime pass. It used to be they used to give you tickets, just give you like 2 tickets several times a year, and you could use those to get in. And then if you did like events, I did Studio Catering Company, which they did a lot of the big wigs would come in. We got to meet a lot of famous people, and you'd get free passes for that. Then they made up a gate pass, which was like a little wallet folder card that would have punches for each month, and you were allowed to get so many people in each month. And that's pretty much, if I remember right, how they still do it. I don't discuss it. I haven't been to Disney or asked if I could get a friend in or something. These days, I'd just be a phone call, and I'm sure I could get a half a dozen or more people to get me and the family in if we care to go there. We get offers, if we get that way all the time. So, it helps to stay friends with people and talk. But, anyway, there are people that I know who have lifetime passes. Again, 20 years is what it works for Disney. And then they used to, like the employee pins, they used to have actual solid gold pins that they would give out. And I don't remember if it was the 10 or 20 year, but they used to have a real ruby in the employee service pins that they gave out. And I kept a couple. I've got a couple gold service pins that are 10 karat gold from Disney. And I've got all of mine. I still have my name tags even from, the progression. I've got the 20th anniversary and then the 25th anniversary. And then some of them, they added your town where you're from, and I saved those. The favorite ones of people, the folks who work at Disney, the cast members. I'm on a site on Facebook, too, that's only for ex-cast members. We share some stories and things like that. But the favorite was trying to get phony names printed up for your name tags with crazy names and cities and stuff. And those usually sell for more money on eBay, just FYI. But there's a group of us who still collect those occasionally. I'll run into one here and there. But that was always the gimmick. And a lot of us in the business and working for Disney had fun with it, trying to get crazy names made up on name tags that we could wear in the park. You get in trouble for it sometimes, but you usually get lucky and have a decent manager, or you were the manager, like in my case at some point in time after I'd been there. But anyway. Let's slide down here some more, get some more comments in here and some questions. Yeah, I don't listen to much of the negative ones. I do get negative comments on my videos saying I'm working for eBay and, I'm just a kiss up and things like that. I don't have the issues. I've hauled out a couple of them with, the things like their foreign shipment can't be done in mass, and the bulk shipping system. There are some other issues I have with eBay, but overall, I make most of my money here. It's easy money. It's quick money. It's nothing I have to worry about or get stressed out over. Where else could I do this? Where else could you do this? Where else could any of you do this that are reselling? You can't work for somebody and do this. You can't control your own business. You can't control the amount of profit you make. You can't work extra hours if they're not offering extra hours to make more money. Very rarely. One place I worked, I was offered if I opened up on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, I would get 10% of the sales that day, which I did do a couple of times when other things were going on. It wasn't a whole day. You could set your time if you opened up. We did breakfast and lunch on Christmas one year, and I made some good money on it. I wouldn't do it again just because family is so much more important, but I wanted to see. A friend of mine did it in one store, and he made a ton of money at that point. It was, a month's worth of pay extra he did because he was the only store opened at that point, and he made a ton of money. Some restaurants you can do $15,000-$20,000 in a day. So, it just depends. And, some managers don't make a lot of money. Just because they're a manager, it doesn't mean they're wealthy or well off. It depends on where you live. So, anyway. Sylvia, yeah, drop shipping, in my honest, full-fledged opinion, will not be something you will be able to do in the next few years. Retail arbitrage will be something you will not be able to do. You'll still be able to get the ones here and there, a few here and there, but pretty much across the board, people are catching on to what's going on. There's still some companies who don't. I source at Target. Target sometimes these days will ask you for, what you're doing with it. I've been asked. We do Burlington Coat Factory. Occasionally I'll be able to retail arbitrage shoes from Burlington. Or Ross or some of these other ones you can retail arbitrage to. I don't do shoes like that anymore just because I don't like clothing, but in the past we do. Sometimes you can, do some retail arbitrage from there from other items, jewelry, toys. Toys was good with Burlington Coat Factory, honestly. We had some Sonic the Hedgehog figures we got there that are fully articulated. I bought a mess of them. I even left my name since no one else knew to look there for the toys, apparently. They called me whenever they got them in, and I bought every one they had, and I sold every one they had. So, there's still the opportunity, and some stores are still okay with it. But as it gets more and more into time and more of these people are doing it, the ones they're killing it. When you're, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I know there's people who offer, packages so they'll teach you how to do it. But there's only a finite amount of people that can do this before the market crashes, just like clothing. So, market's going to get diluted. The companies are going to get fed up when more and more people are doing this. You're copying illegally, people copying their ads for like drop shipping. You copy their photo. I'm not calling out anybody. I don't specifically spend any time investigating who does it or who doesn't. It's not my concern. I have done it. So again, I'm not criticizing the aspect of it, but for those who are broadcasting it to thousands of people to do, it's going to kill it. It's going to kill it. I know many people, in fact, I don't know anybody personally who hasn't had their feedback ruined or their eBay account, temporarily, shut down because of feedback issues related to drop shipping, or they're not up on it. If you do drop shipping correctly, you can keep up with it. You don't plan on being a top-rated seller, though. But as long as you're monitoring the items you're selling as a drop shipper, you still have potential. But the ones that get themselves in trouble think they're just going to make a bunch of money. They're going to list a whole bunch of illegally copied photos and listings, and then just be able to just have this money rolling in. But they don't go back and check when the items are discontinued or they're out of stock. And then they sell a bunch of these items because they go out of stock and people realize, well, where can I get these? So then they see your posting and then they buy them, and then you have to cancel 4, 5, 6 sales without any explanation. And then you're done because it just sent off your matrix on eBay. So now you're dropping down in your rating and ranking in eBay, and then you're screwed. So it's going to happen. There won't be all these retail arbitrage. There won't be drop shipping. It's going to happen. Every day another Vero is added. Brian brought up the Disney. Target, I've heard, is doing the same thing. There's many other companies. JCPenney's, I've been told. I know somebody who works there. They've gotten some internal memos that they have to be watching out for this. It's going to be an industrial standard. For those who don't know, all these industries that we're talking about, Target and all these, produce business-oriented magazines for that field that they do. Department store magazines that are sent out to regionals and to managers to say what's going on in the department store industry. And many of those now are putting ads and articles about how to stop resellers and drop shippers and arbitrage in general. So, look them up. I've looked into them. I've seen the postings. So if anybody's shocked that this is now coming out, I've talked about it when I first started coming on here. I'm up on the market. I don't wait till somebody tells me or something's going on. That's part of you doing your business. You have to investigate these things. If you're making your livelihood on drop shipping, I would honestly recommend you looking into better ways to do it, different sources or other things to do. Just don't tie yourself up to one specific aspect. That's why I say I occasionally do drop shipping, or I occasionally do retail arbitrage, mostly during the holidays, but I do everything like that to make money. I'm very selective. I'm not greedy. I don't drive around to everyone in town and spend $10,000 on product. In the past, I've done that a couple of times, but, it can backfire. You can run into an issue where you buy a bunch of them, and even with the receipt, you might run into an issue where someone might not want to take all of a certain item back when it doesn't sell. All they have to do is pull up a notice in one of their rules and regulations, whether it's posted or not, that says if you are drop shipping to make money, that they don't have to take those items back. I've heard several people say, on videos that, I've got a receipt, I'll just take it back. You can violate the purchase agreement when you buy these, which in many cases is listed on a site for that company that says that you can't do it for a business. So technically, some of these people that, do this may not get a refund, or they don't technically have to because you bought it for the wrong reason. So again, it's a private company. They can do what they want. It's going to go way of that. I'm telling you it is. Believe me or not, I've investigated, I've spent time. This is some of the things you're going to have to think and consider if you're going to do drop shipping. Again, I have done it and I do it occasionally. So not criticizing the aspect of doing it. I'm criticizing the fact that when you flood the market and don't get into it and research and know what you're doing, you're going to kill yourself with it. So anyway. Let's see here. Rope and reselling. Have you ever sold anything from your personal collection that is Disney? Yes, I have. I painted some mural work with Disney, and you can look up this name. Fran Kirsten was head of ink and paint in like 93 or 94. I think she was there for like 6 years. She handled the color coding for all the characters in Disney animated films and stuff. And I was given 700 jars of color-coded character-coded paint, animation cell vinyl paint. Disney paints on cells. They don't do it so much anymore, but back then they still did cells for the TV shows and things like that. And it's a vinyl paint that's bought from Cartoon Color out of, I think it's Culver, California, who supplies most of the animation paint, and they're done on vinyl cells. But she gave me a bunch of that personally for me to do some murals. She gave me all the color and key codes to the characters that I were doing, which was Fantasyland. I did sell a bunch of those to people, even though that was in my personal collection. We were making a ton of money. I have sold the eyes and ears. For those of you who don't know much about Disney or don't know anybody who works there, which is probably a big chunk of you, Eyes and Ears is the cast member exclusive newspaper that was given out only to the employees. They do color issues for Christmas and holidays. Disneyland has their own ones as well, too. Euro Disney has them. I've sold those. I've sold some Disney-only catering plates. I've sold some signs that I was lucky enough to give. I even sold a fish, one of the mechanical fish, out of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea before, which I said I would always keep. I know somebody who has some other items from these, but that's been years and years ago that we did this. When you lived in Florida, you could always do that. The biggest thing people would do would sell their free tickets at gas stations, things to visitors and tourists, which Disney used to look out for. They'd have people stationed at gas stations, undercover detectives and things, and they'd bust you on that. That's why they went to the main gate pass, which was something you had to be present. Nowadays, in the past, you could just give somebody a ticket, get them in the park, and off they went. Nowadays, even in the last 10, 15, 20, even when I worked there, you actually had to get them in and stay with the folks that you get in with your main gate pass into Disney. We did that. I know anything you can possibly know about Magic Kingdom from the time from I was there, I know. We know the backstage. I've crawled through the rides. I've seen Space Mountain with the lights on. I've seen reports. I've seen accident reports, incident reports. deaths. I've had the costumes on. We got to play with sets. I literally, and again, I worked there for 10 years. So, I know every in and out you can possibly imagine about the Magic Kingdom. I knew all the secrets to get into things and the back ways. I know the entire tunnel system inside and out. When I painted the mural, I was one of the 20 cars that got a permit to park right at the entrance to the tunnel system outside the Magic Kingdom. The castle is actually above ground. For those of you who don't know, there's basically almost a 3-story underground system. When you first walk into the tunnel system at the Magic Kingdom, the first thing down the main corridor is the employee changing areas and stuff, and then you have wardrobe, and then farther down on the same side of that on the right is the cafeteria, because they've got a big cafeteria. When we were there, it used to be run by Disney, but a company called Aramark now does all of Disney food service for the employees, and then the food quality went way down. So anyway, but I'm very knowledgeable on it. The tunnel system is there too for like when money comes into Disney. For those of you who love Disney, and I was a big Disney fan and freak for a long time. Like they have a cash handling there, and they actually drive in the Brinks cars, drive into the Magic Kingdom tunnel system, and then pull up inside the building area where cash. That's why most people wonder about robbery. There have been attempts at robbery from cash control. Like my wife worked there, and she had armed guards walk her out when she worked at tickets because she was responsible for $200,000 minimum at any given time of tickets as a ticket. She was a vacation planner was the technical title. They helped arrange vacations, and then she did guest service relations as well for a while, and guest service relations are the ones that wear the plaid vests, and they actually escorted at the time movie stars and famous people. And my wife got to do that too, so we've got to meet and talk to a lot of famous people. I'm not a big idolizer of famous people at all. I've got some people that I think are good actors and things like that, but I don't idolize anybody. I don't look forward to being like anybody or anything like that, because I want to be myself. Whether you like somebody or not, that's your call, like Kim Kardashian or whoever you happen to like. It doesn't matter to me. I don't really care. I don't degrade somebody if they have they're fans of somebody. I'm just not me. I'm more down to earth. I don't mind wearing a thrift store jacket or a vintage pair of something, or buying a used car or anything like that. It doesn't play into my book. At the end of the day, I have the same results from a used car as somebody else has from a new car. Who cares? I don't care. I don't look up to somebody who has a nice car or a Jaguar or a Lamborghini or something like that. It doesn't impress me. If that's what they want, fine. I don't care. It doesn't hurt my feelings. It doesn't mean anything to me anyway. So let's get on to some questions. I know we're running late. I've just got some time to relax today. I'm not doing any business too much today, so we'll stay on for a bit longer. This is probably one of my longest ones here. eBay says 10 days USPS. Yeah, there's not really a conflict on that, Moonshine Fuel. The difference is eBay will close out a case after 10 days. But the post office, it considers it 30 days. It's to the post office's benefit to say 30 days, just in case, because the post office knows that some items don't show up for 30 days. So, it pushes people off. Sometimes they get irate and maybe they forget to fill out the paperwork. Disney is just trying to close it off quicker so that they can solve and not have a dissatisfied buyer. So I get the difference between that. I do understand that as well too. I've talked to the post office. I know it's 30 days from them. eBay is what my concern is. eBay is where I make my money, so I don't care what the post office says. No insult to you whatsoever. Again, that is true. There is a discrepancy there, but it's there for a reason. It's there to make the buyer happy. I've even heard that from eBay personally. So again, they don't worry what the post office's rules are. They worry about what's going to satisfy a customer versus what's going to satisfy the post office. Again, they're not necessarily apples and oranges, but again, there's two aspects of all of this. So I look at it from a business aspect. Again, I have a missed package right this very second that I don't have, that the eBay is going to side with the buyer, with the seller for right this second, because it shows it was delivered. It wasn't though. And again, that was one of my biggest pet peeves. eBay says it was delivered to your address based on a zip code. That zip code does not prove to eBay that it was delivered even miles from your house. It only shows that it was delivered to your postal code. So that is a lie, and that is eBay's biggest lie on the shipping aspect. That is not true and does not work that way. So again, they do have issues, and I do call them out on it. There's nothing that can be done because eBay doesn't care about that issue. So anyway. Yeah, I would never do a Disney exposed video, Brian. I still have some very good friends, lifelong friends, and we it's the place I met the most lifelong people I talked to has been Disney. We worked when I started at Disney. Disney MGM Studios had only been open up for say 6 or 7 months. If you can track that down to find out when I worked there, if you really want to, but they started us off on 60 hours a week. So we worked very well with everybody, and it was a big thing. We all partied on the weekend. We hung out at Vista Way, which was the college program kids would stay there, and they'd cram them in there. That's a scam too, but I ain't gonna get into that. But we did the whole camaraderie thing. We went to Pleasure Islands on the weekends. We went to the '70s club and did the disco dancing. I had a friend who had a Travolta, white suit that he'd wear out there, and then we went to the Adventurers Club, which I don't believe any of these are there anymore, but that was another one at Pleasure Island, and we did the Disney Village Place and all that stuff, and it was a big group of us that would always get together. There would always be a party or a hangout, and we always talked about stuff we did in Disney, and you get some lifelong friends from doing that. Most businesses you won't see that, but Disney is a different story. It's a different beast. You've got more invested. You wear uniforms and you talk throughout, and you deal with the same issues, and life is the same for you there. So Disney is a good place to build friendship. At least it used to be. I don't know what it is these days, because nowadays they contract out, like the custodial people are contracted out. They've forced people, if they want more hours, to not just do the job they were assigned, but now to sweep up streets. They've lowered the amount. It used to be 32 hours was considered full time at Disney. It used to be 40, and then he dropped it to 32, and I heard now it's like 28. That way they don't have to give you benefits if they can drop you down below a certain point. So there's a whole scheme in all this. They're a money making company, so you're a number at Disney for the most part, honestly. But I would never do that. I would never try to expose somebody for views. I don't care about that. You can tell I'm not out for a ton of views. I've already been on every channel in the world if I was. Again, I will be on some channels here soon. One of the big ones, and then a couple that are rising stars that are good. I'm not going to pick some scammer or somebody who cusses or anything like that either. So just FYI. Disney busted my employer, a bakery, for using Disney images without permission. They do that all the time. As I said, if you're in Florida, Disney has people that drive around and get reports on this stuff. They have a lawyer in every country on the planet. They've got lawyers in every state. Again, they hit all the flea markets. I had a friend who was selling stuff at a flea market, Disney merchandise, and literally the cops showed up, and FBI. They confiscated everything that was Disney. Now, I know two personal experiences I have. One got arrested, and another one got a court notice to appear in court for copyright infringement, as well as some other issues too. Some of the items were claimed to be stolen from Disney, which they very well could be. In Florida, around Orlando, in Lake Buena Vista or Buena Ventura, any of those areas out there, even out in Claremont, in Winter Garden, and all those aspects around the Disney general area, they look out for that. And that's one of the bigger areas that you will see that, or even the gift shops that will be selling false, fake Disney T-shirts, just you name it. Even fake Disney videos you'll see too. Yeah, you are correct, Moonshine Fuel. Sometimes you will see them. I always go to the UPS site or the post office site first before I decide on what's going to happen on eBay. Now, that's not necessarily an eBay issue, mind you. There's so many things that can tie those. It has to be tracked and tied, just like when eBay lost all of our photos in June, the big photo apocalypse. Those links from the tracking come from one server. There's a server that ties these, and then there's internal links that you can't see, you have no clue on, that link the tracking information to the actual auction-ended listing. So if there's breaks in the links, sometimes that won't show up. eBay, though, will not mess with it unless it affects you. So don't worry about it unless it affects your business. If it affects your business and you can prove that the government post office site says that it was delivered and handled incorrectly, they'll waive those positively, 100%. Never had a doubt on it. They do it all the time if it hits over your limit because of that. So, and luckily I haven't had any hit over the limit. I think it's like, 3% you have to keep it, no more than 3% in tracking losses. So 97% of all your items, I think that's what it is. somewhere in that figure, have to have the initial scan done within a certain time frame. So that's all I really worry about. And again, on that moonshine fuel, again, as I said, I'm going to have a video addressing how to solve that. The bulk shipping option gives you the master scan sheet through eBay for free, so you don't have to pay for a third-party site to do this. Those are guaranteed to post properly within the time frame as long as that sheet is scanned. So once the sheet is scanned, you are free and clear. And if it doesn't show up for some reason on either, as long as you have that sheet, once they scan it, keep the sheet. Do 2 copies of it if you have to. There should be a system, it should be tied in eBay's system as well on top of that, but I keep a copy of the sheet. Just run yourself off a second copy. They can verify that sheet, that barcode is tied to those specific items as well too. So even if it doesn't show that, it just shows 7 first class packages or 50 medium mail packages. They can still bonify which items were shipped for there. We don't see so much information. You're limited. Even on the post office site, as I said, you see like this much percentage of the tracking, but there's a huge sheet when it prints out. It's like 3 or 4 pages in some cases on where it bounces and different scans that don't show up and different activity of your package. So anyway, let's get a few more in here. Yeah, Jersey Pickens, that is a problem too. And again, as I said, the master scan sheet solves that. It 100% solves it as long as you're using the eBay version. Again, there are some third parties that have great master scan sheets that work perfectly fine. I just happen to find one that doesn't do it all the time. They claim it's not the case, but I can prove it's not working correctly because I have the master scan sheet showing that these items should have been scanned and were scanned. And then I've got 2 items that don't show up on the U.S. Post Office site as being scanned or on eBay. So again, be careful on how you do it. I will have a video on that for those who are new to it, and I will show you a way to do it quicker than you can do them individually, like many people have said. Many people tell me it's quicker to do them individually. I find it's not. After doing it, as long as you follow certain procedures and do it the same way every time, you're going to get really quick at it. Don't change up your methods on certain things that are working for you. Worry about speeding up those methods as long as they're working. So anyway. Yeah, eBay won't, Jersey Pickens, eBay won't fix those matrix unless it goes over your limit and affects your rating. Once it goes over the limit and affects your rating, as long as you can show them, and what they'll do, and I just had this checked out just the other day, they'll go over and you tell them which ones, and they're going to go ahead and open up yours. They'll copy, they'll do this themselves, I promise you. I know for sure the U.S. call center does this. They'll post in those tracking numbers into the post office themselves, and then they'll make notes on your account that says, yes, it was done in time, yes, it was done in time, and then they will waive that. If they're not doing it, you need to call somebody else and talk to a different eBay employee, because that is what they were supposed to do and promised to do. I've talked to them too many times and had them look that up to verify that that's the case. They will save your ratings if it's related to items that were guaranteed and you can prove that they were shipped and done on time. That's a fact. I've talked to them, I've dealt with it, and I've had them personally do that. So anyway, everybody might not have the same experience depending on if you're talking to the foreign call centers, but they're supposed to do that at the foreign call centers as well too. Moronic Pass, yeah, I don't take them in anymore and do that. The master scan sheet has honestly saved me, and I can tell you right now, if you're having them scan them one at a time, the post office is not going to keep that going on. They're going to require you to get a master scan sheet, so it's going to defeat the purpose of going to the post office at some point when they require it. There are post offices right this minute that say that. If you go to the post office's website, there is actually a notice on the post office's site that large amounts of packages will require a master scan sheet at some post office. Now, they can't charge you for it because there is a specific notice as well that says they can't, and I've had people say that they were being charged to have massive items scanned by their specific postmaster. Now, the rules and regulations on the site say that's not true, but there is a rule that does say that they can require a master scan sheet for business, because they do provide the option through the site that you sell on, so there is the option to do it. So anyway, I have not seen any delivered after the package was stated as delivered, unless that package was delivered to the wrong address and that person put the package back in the system. I have seen that on several occasions, but I have never out of the tens of thousands of packages that we mail out, and I mail out, I don't know, maybe this week alone, maybe 475. I think we mailed 475 packages. I don't see that personally out of my packages, and I don't check them all, but I do check through them randomly on occasion. So anyway, that could very well be the case. It could be a scrupulous delivery guy that's just stashing them or ripping them off, because there's dishonest delivery mailmen as well too. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't necessarily mean that the post office itself did it. I give everybody the benefit of the doubt, but I know some of our people sometimes don't scan them in. And again, one of my post office guys is friends is on my page, so no insult to anybody here at all. I know things happen. They are not necessarily the postmaster, but when packages arrive in bulk at the post office, there is somebody there who's supposed to scan them in. Things get slipped, so I don't blame anybody. I should have always been doing a master scan sheet, so I blame that on myself for not doing the proper version of it. So from now on, I do it through eBay. I've kept up on it since I started to verify, and I'll look through every one right now. I'm looking through tons of shipped items to verify, but we don't always send everything through post office. I've got many clients that we ship U.S. parcel or airborne and things like that too. So just keep that in mind. Let's go down and see where we're at. If you haven't hit the like button, please pop that like button for us here too. We try to, get the best amount of views as we can, obviously. So the like button does help push us up to the top. So if you do enjoy my videos, please hit the like button. I'll probably have a couple when I sign off negatives, because I always get those no matter what. Not a big concern. It still counts as positive for us. So hang on here. We just lost my feed again. So let me pop back up and see. Let me get back up here. I've just lost a whole section of my chat. Let me pop back up here. I apologize. You have to give me a second here. Okay, here we go. I think I'm back to where I still got a whole bunch. We'll go on for a little longer. Again, this is my relaxed day here. Let's see here. Let's see. Truth Seeker for Yeshua. Keep saying need updating. My listings need updating. I don't mess with those. I just ignore that, truthfully. I don't worry about that unless it's pulling my listing off viewability. Some of the listing updates and stuff are just bogus in my book, so at least from what I see. You're talking about the master scan sheet, Jersey Pickens. It bona fides that they hit the post office at a specific time frame, which I have checked into very, very much. I've talked to the postmaster here because I do know them, and I've talked to eBay on this topic many times. The master scan sheet shows that they are checked in. I have not had any. Well, I'll take that back. As I said, the one service I did have a couple that didn't show checked in at all. But that master scan sheet, everyone I've seen that I've used through eBay now has shown everyone tracked and checked in the minute she scanned it. I wrote down the time, I verified the time in the system, and the acceptance is the time that it was scanned at my front door for every item in a row through eBay. Whether that's the case or not, that's exactly what's happened in my personal experience. And I've talked to several other people, and again, the same thing they said, that when it's scanned in, it always shows acceptance at the time frame that the actual person physically scanned it in. I don't trust most things, so I investigate and research everything, even if I'm told by 100 other sellers that it's the case. So I haven't had that experience personally. If I do, we will bring that back up, and I'll say that that is the case. But as of now, I have not seen that personally. Not saying it didn't happen to you, but from what I personally have seen, that has not happened to me at all. Again, nothing wrong with taking them into the post office. I don't have that issue. I'm still well below any ratings tick that I could get that would affect me. So I've got, I think, 14 that were scanned in 2 days past the deadline from the post office. Now, they were in the system already, but there was no initial scan. So, and they didn't show up on a master scan sheet scanning either. So anyway. Thank you, Barnstar. Wendy, well, sorry to hear that. I have several other folks that I've talked to personally about divorce issues and things like that. There's someone on here who sadly has a had a abusive husband. So, you know, I worked as a manager for many years in restaurants and foods and things like that. I've heard every story you could imagine, every horrible story, including, like a server whose father beat them and things like that. I've heard, being raped by a parent, just awful things. So, my heart goes out to people when I hear that. Some people are stuck in situations with no way to get out. It's a bad situation all around. So I wish you the best of luck. Having kids again, myself, I know how it is. Thank God we're two of us, my wife and I, and we've had a very happy and long relationship. Been married over 20 years to my best friend. So I can't speak enough on that. It just you gotta I don't know. You just gotta move on from that point. I have to say it's for the best. I would say then if it happened. Hopefully it is for your best. Move on, take that as a learning experience, and you're the better person for it. Let's see where we're at. Yeah, the same thing, Jersey, with them scanning at there. I haven't had that issue either. Again, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I just personally haven't seen it. There could be some local issue maybe where the scans, or the person didn't fully scan it in. Usually if I get the receipt, the time it says on the receipt when we used to go to the post office matches the acceptance in eBay and as well on the post office's site also. Now again, that could be different where you're at. Some post offices now, if you've seen the new systems they've been rolling out, some use a older system. So I know the new systems are very accurate from all I've seen. They upgraded the one here at our post office twice in the last 2 years. So I know we have the most advanced system they have. There could be some glitches in it. There could be some aspects where that information isn't, relayed from that point on, because the post offices has servers and big databases of this information. So again, there could be ties or links broken. So it could be a very technical issue that they're unaware of, or they just don't care, or they don't have enough technical expertise to figure it out because they're still straggling in 10 years ago era. So that's how I look at it. Hang on just a second. My feed is just terrible today. Let's see here, where are we at? Stephen Rose resells. There's no problem with being on Instagram. Just I don't advance that way personally. I may do it with my toys, as I said. I'm taking it as I go, and I'm learning from what I've done with social media. I'm not a big marketer, as everybody can tell. That's not where my goals are. I market for some things, and I go way out, and I've marketed for my artwork and stuff, and we've had major results from that. I'm more into getting contracts and getting hopefully someone else to do a lot of it for me. That's part of why I decided to go with a toy company like Tenacious Toys, and I'll address the other toy company I've already had some conversation with in the real near future here. It's better to have services that are willing to do it for you in my aspect of it, where I don't have to pay for some of this, or waste my time. For like toys, for example, there's a ton of vinyl toys that are one-offs and made by individual people. But to get popular or get some business or some leverage, you need to take them to a show. So if I sign a deal and give a certain percentage away to somebody to do it for me, it's worth my time because I'm saving on the setup and the cost and, shutting down some aspects of things I do to be able to do that. So again, you got to weigh your options with whatever you do, whether you want to start an Instagram and try to market and make some money through that, which again is a good option and a good source because it's some free advertisements you can get out there too. So again, I've looked into all of this when we first started. I'm not a super big fan on Facebook as a site. I like doing and answering questions. I just not am as big on it. Before I forget too, I am behind on answering a lot of things, so bear with me over the next couple days. I should be caught back up again. With my son's medical issues, we haven't worried so much about some other things of it here, obviously. So anyway, let's go down and see what we got. I still have a ton I haven't even looked at yet. Let me see if I can stop it from jumping all over the place. I wished it wasn't so jumpy on my side. Here we go again, back to jumping. Let me see if I can get it without jumping. Anthony, top-rated status isn't as important as it used to be because of promoted listings and being able to get commercial postage rates on pirate ship. Yeah, I wouldn't use pirate ship. I don't do any of that kind of stuff at all. Truthfully, you get the shipping rates. The regular shipping rates are a discount for everybody who sells on eBay, as far as I know. Top-rated seller status gives me several $1,000s free at the end of the year. I'm saving several thousand. I know it sounds like not a lot, but when you're doing 10% on your final value fees and you're selling $30,000 a month in sales, you know, it adds up at the end of the year. Every single dime you save does add up. So for me, I'd rather keep it. It does boost me up. I understand the promoted listings, but again, you're even losing more money. So not only are you not getting the 10% discount on your final value fees, but now you're paying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20% to eBay extra for promoted listings. And for us, most of what I sell is basically a one-off or a very limited amount, so I always show up on those type of items on the top of the search result, so I would just be wasting my money. It would take the right person for the most part coming in. Now, I've run a test and I've had people say they have had some results. Again, it depends on how many of your item is available in the first place. I ran a long test recently in the last 30 days where we did 1 and 2% promoted listings on a select amount of items, and then basically the same items without that discount. There is no difference from what I sell. I do not see that influx in sales that I couldn't have seen just by doing what I'm doing already without paying eBay the money. So again, penny pinching your business is fine. Penny pinching your personal life might not be the same. So I don't have a lot of those concerns. Yes, Jersey, it does mean dollar savings. It is substantial, as I said. Thousands of dollars we save from the top-rated seller plus status. Just like having 2 anchor stores saves us $2,400 a year. For each anchor store, we're going to save basically $2,400 a year in eBay fees. That's why we're going to do a 3rd anchor store. Every time you do an anchor store, you have to have a whole new account, email address, and the whole works set up. So just keep that in mind. You can have the same PayPal site technically, but then it ties it all together. So just there's drawbacks on whatever you do. So just keep that in mind and what you do with that. So again, that is just part of the aspect. Research whatever you are doing to know. I do have a video on saving money in that way, so if you're interested in knowing the differences here, I do go over a breakdown on what 2 anchor stores saves us over 1 anchor store. Again, because anything over the first 10,000 listings on 1 anchor store, you are charged 5 cents. With the anchor store, it's 4 cents or less, depending on how you calculate your $300 fee for the anchor store. So, and then we get $150 worth of boxes per anchor store, which some people sell. I'll trade the bags. Lately, I just buy the poly. I used all that money for poly bags, so at least I can limit my poly bag purchases. So again, that's what I do with some of that. Let me see here. Let's move on down. Welcome, Wade. Wade's Ventures. Wade has a pretty good site. He is a fairly good and honest person from all I have seen, so check him out. He's always happy to call up people. He was happy to call our channel, so good to have you on, Wade. I will drop you an email today, Wade. We have been going over some things here, and I'll drop you an email, and we'll discuss a few things here, so just be on the lookout. I was going to send it yesterday, but yesterday we were still recovering from the hospital stay, so anyway, Wade's a pretty good guy. You can check his channel out too. Wade is a good one. I am not up on posting stuff on the chat too well, so Wade's Ventures, he has an apostrophe after the E in Wade. So his wife, I know he has a young child. I did see the announcement that he made. So he is one that I have watched many times. Wade is a pretty good guy from all I have seen. So again, I don't call out too many channels, but there are some that the Bearded Picker, he does have a channel as well too. So there are others. I don't watch everybody's channel, so I don't know everybody who has a channel these days. Again, as I said, I don't have a lot of time these days to watch or listen to other videos. I know some people put it in the background. I need motivation and motivation for employees. So usually I am listening to a playlist that I have. If anybody's interested too, I'd be happy to post some playlist links to some of the playlists that I have. I have hundreds of songs and playlists. I am a aficionado to some extent on some types of music. Old school R&B I do like, but I do love alternative, so I do have posts on that. I do like 80s hair band music because I was a hair band child, did have hair to my waist. So anyway, happy Sunday to you, Wade. Dennis, sourced a corkscrew. Hopefully you do well, and an ink bottle as well. Let's see here. Corkscrews, as I've said in the past, I think in the corkscrew video I talked about this. I sold a corkscrew for almost $1,000. Crazy number for a corkscrew, but you know, even ink bottles can sell for close to $1,000. I've got videos on both of those topics. So the more you know, the more you are going to make. The secondary consideration is whatever you're buying, the best items to buy are ones that have multi-category interest. Let's say can be sold in 3 or 4 categories. Those are going to make you the most money. I don't care about any other aspect. That's one of the top 2 aspects of things I look for when I buy. If I have a choice to buy something that can be listed in 3 categories over one that can be sold in 1, same price factor, I always buy the one that sells in more categories. It's just a given. They did sell quickly. Watch your price on that if they sold that quickly. You didn't make a big profit. Making a profit's key though, but when they sell really quick, think about it next time to raise the price. You know, your research is key. Don't always judge the price and what you put on something based on, you know, half a dozen other people that price it the same way. I don't think there's a day goes by that I don't sell something more than the highest one on eBay has sold in the past. Again, I price them higher. If everybody started to do that same judgment, everybody across the board would have higher income and higher profits. Many new people price them by what they see other people selling them at, and they're underselling them themselves, and then they're lowering the market share as well. So again, there's a philosophy to this. I'm not talking about rigging the market. I'm talking about pricing them then in an area where you continually sell an item. I'm not trying to scam. I'm not trying to raise the price. I'm trying to put it in a price range where I seem to sell it. It's your items. You can price it as you wish. I don't do any great influx and go up and down in prices. I start them high and then I drop down, but I don't almost never go back up again once it's down. Let's see where we are at. Well, good to hear that I have helped that. Good to hear that, Cherry. Let's see here. Top rated helped in past to rate your items higher in ranking. Now that doesn't mean much when people can pay for higher rankings. It does and it doesn't, Anthony. There's no bona fide proof for some of what eBay does, but I have talked about this. I do know some ins and outs on how the search results work. I have an IT degree. I took data-based design and construction. We did a lot. We constructed it. You know, I know SQL. I know some of the other database language and code. There are some things you can prove, or I can prove without a doubt, that eBay is doing by attacking it and using multiple areas for my information. I've talked about it a little bit. I'm not going to give away a ton on this because it is a very big insider information for me. It does help me, but there are some things some people in the know can glean from doing some basic searches and things like that on eBay's actual database. Now, I can't know all of their search code or a query determinations, but I can judge some of it from that. So anyway, let's move down. Ramen Masters Theory. Snowing. Yeah, we had some the other day. It's been so cold. We were with the whole hospital thing with my son. It was a terrible day on the way to the hospital. It was icy. It was sleeting ice, and you could barely see the road. It was dark, and couldn't happen on a worse time because I'm already paranoid over my son and then the roads, and we still have ice outside. It's been averaging at night here like 10, 12 degrees. The day he was admitted into the hospital, it was like 8 outside. So, and it was just all around. Everything couldn't have happened worse time or place to be truthfully. Thank you, Black Crystal Dice. Let me see here. I appreciate the comments. Mr. Mark, I have several videos that just talk, and I believe it's called niche. I think if you type niche in my actual playlist, you will find it. It should be in the how-to. I've got several videos just talking about specifically vintage postcards. I give examples, multiple examples on how to distinguish the era, the age, the back. I also talk about through many of these videos, including those two specific ones, on which postcards are the best ones to buy. So if you want to get in postcards, look through some of my how-to playlists, type in niche. I think it actually says maybe our niche in the title. If you're in my Patreon group, I have a complete list that you can just type in a word and search through as well, too, to all my Patreon members. Anyway, Death Pile, welcome. Hello, Flippin' South. I haven't called out too many names. I do apologize. Again, we just kind of hopped into it. Do apologize for the emotionalness in the beginning. Just trying to get in a better mood here, too. So, anyway. Let's see, the video picker praying for you and your family. Yes, as he had said too, his wife has they're dealing with breast cancer, which again we had the same scare with my family, so I do completely understand. We went through pretty much everything up to that they probably did with all the tests. We thank God didn't have it. My wife is clear. It does go under family again, so everything that happens, you are terrified to death that you're going to lose somebody you love. So again, that's a big concern for me. That's why I don't stress the stuff like on eBay and stuff anymore. I will stress out about my family all day long, but I won't do it over business. Formerly known as FNP. The answer to that would be to do Medicare or healthcare for all, as we talked about. If you want to go, we did a big long talk about it a little while ago. If you did that, it's going to cost you $4,000 to $5,000 max for the entire year, so you would lose nothing. You would gain thousands. So you would cut your costs down if everybody had insurance at $24,000 roughly, or $23,000 a year you're paying. You would save yourself $15,000 if they did Medicare for all. Those are actual numbers. So again, I'm not going to go back into the medical. If you're interested in the conversation we had earlier, which was a long conversation, please go back and check that out. Yeah, Jersey Pickens. I watched my grandmother die of cancer as well. She had a heart attack, the last thing. So I completely understand. It's a terrible, terrible, terrible experience. The tax is not the same. That is not tax to cover everybody's insurance. So there's a big difference. If you're interested in knowing, go back and look up on actual sites. Don't trust what people are telling you. There's more to it than that. That tax is not to keep insurance or anything like that. If everybody had insurance, everything would be cheap and low for everybody in the country. That's just a fact. That's how it works. Again, we are the worst country. That's a top world country for insurance in the industrialized world. We're the only one who can't give it to everybody. So anyway, enough of that, I guess. And actually, I think the new administration's actually removed that tax, so you're not required to pay that anymore. Actually, from what I understand. Yeah, Anthony, as I said, yeah, bulk shipping, it will save you time, especially if you get a routine and you follow that routine every time. That is saving us time right off the bat. I was surprised, but sure enough, once you get a routine down, you get quick at it. It's great. It works fine. Stephen Rosary sells. Have I ever had issues with Disney sending listing warnings for using their name on items sold on eBay? No, I have not. I have not heard of that. It just depends on the item. They can Vero you on stuff too. Don't forget. I don't think Disney cares at all about the collectibles. From all I understand, I've never heard of anybody being harassed by Disney selling a legitimate vintage collectible. It actually pushes their brand. There's a whole section on eBay just called Disneyana. So, there'd be no way for them to ticket or cram you up for that unless they remove the Disneyana category. Because Disney is in the title of eBay's category, mind you. Yeah, that is true, Black Crystal Dice. Yeah, they do, Jersey Pickens. They do rake in from the drugs. That is true. No, you won't have any issues, Stephen Rosary sells, with postcards or Disney toys at all. As I said, I've never had an issue. I sell them all the time. There isn't a week goes by that I don't sell something Disney, I would say. I'm not sure what nasty thinking is, what you're talking about there. Yeah, Anthony, that could very well be with the pass holders as well, too. Because again, they're cracking down. They were doing that back, 20 plus years ago when I worked there, if that tells you anything. Eddie, talking about waiting in Canada. I don't know if you've seen the list of waiting time over here. More people die waiting for organs in this country than in Canada by far. Nor is the wait, from what I see, longer than anything. Like they talk about ultrasounds and things. They're not a wait long time there at all. I've been to Canada many times. We have friends in Canada. My son goes to Canada. I just don't see that as an issue. A liver over here takes a long time unless you got money, it seems. So wherever you're at, a long time to them may be nothing to us, because over here you wait a long time for anything. So I don't consider that an issue. They don't have privatized for the most part. In most of the countries, privatized just means that a company can charge you whatever they want for that same service that you could have got for much cheaper. That's why our outcome for medical is so much worse than almost every country that has civilized medicine. That's why we are 38th or 39th ranked out of the top countries with insurance. That's why we're so far down. That's why Cuba, mind you, has better outcomes, better insurance than we do. That's why Costa Rica does. And I'm just using these examples because these are in our hemisphere. These are countries that everybody should know. That we're not talking about Canada. We're not talking about England or Germany. This is Cuba. Has better insurance rates and better insurance outcome than we do with better doctors. People in our country right now go to Costa Rica to get dental work because it's so much cheaper, so much better, and so much reliable, and so much just all around cheaper. So again, look into that if you have an issue with the insurance, is what I could say. Again, it just depends on each individual results and what's going on in the country that you live in, I would say. I've been to Canada. I know how their system works fairly well. We studied in school. Yeah, let's not call out any sable ducks. Let's not call it any channels. I don't want to turn this into a political thing here. I'm not one to voice who or I vote for anything like that. So, um, not trying to dog on somebody for who they watch or don't watch. That's their own opinion, I guess. That's good. I'm going to get a few more questions in here. We're probably going to cut it off. We're running on a 3 hour mark, and Of course, rich people are going to have privatized healthcare wherever you're at. In this country, that's why I said earlier that the top 1%, the people with money, have far better outcomes than anybody else because they've got the money to pay for whatever they want. Poor people here don't get that aspect of it. And more and more, the better doctors, the ones with the experience, are turning to concierge service in here. And most people can't afford to spend $2,000 on a doctor on top of the insurance just to keep a doctor, because if you don't spend the $2,000 on a concierge doctor, they won't see you anymore. Even if you don't see them for the entire year, you still pay them $2,000. This happened to my mom. She can't go to the doctor that was on her card because he went to concierge. I think everybody should have the same health care, but let's see here where we're at. Yeah, the big problem is money in politics. As soon as we get the money out of politics, this would probably change drastically. Yeah, we do have friends who live in Canada, just FYI. Talk to them weekly, actually. Canada's only 40-minute drive from my house. Yeah, in this country, Jersey Pickens, you are correct. I personally know people who live in Vermont and up there who go to Canada just for cheap medicine because it's so much cheaper. If they had to buy it here, they would probably be dead. And they're elderly folks. There are people that take buses illegally, including politicians, who've taken elderly folks to Canada to buy the exact same medicine for such a horrendously cheaper amount than we pay. We are the only country around that pays the research and development of a lot of these medicines because other countries don't allow that to be done. They don't allow price gouging to their citizens. They don't allow advertisements either. They don't allow them to market their items. They don't allow pharmaceutical companies to buy lunch for doctors just so they'll put their products out first. So anyway, there's a lot wrong with this, and it's all tied to money. Welcome, Carl. I'm assuming you live in Jersey by the remark, and I would agree when the governor is sitting on a closed beach with his family on a holiday and kind of justifying that. If I had to close something for money, I would never use it. I would think that would be an insult. I would be fine if they taxed weed and legalized it. I have no problem with that at all. That would be perfectly fine with me. Whatever they want to do, at this point, if somebody wants to do that, I have no problem with it. Yeah, pacifier, $16 in Houston Hospital. I'm surprised they're that cheap. As I said, we paid like, I don't know, it was like 30 or 40, $50 for a sheet when I was cold from something they put in my IV. And then they take it and they clean it and you don't even get to keep it. So it's all a big scam to some extent. That's the only reason I feel that if it was everybody had health care, there would be no way to let somebody, step ahead of the line, like for an organ. In this country, I see it all the time where a politician who's 80 gets an organ over someone who's young based on his need. I don't see a need for somebody who's lived a full life at 80 to get an organ over a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old based on who he is. I know they say that's not the truth, but I want to see some evidence that shows that's not the truth, and I've never seen any evidence that that doesn't work that way. Tax cigarettes if they're going to do it. That's fine. Tax beer. $6.99 for a straw. That's pretty bad. That's pretty extreme for a straw. Yeah, the vintage Luke Skywalkers. Just watch out on some of those and check out if you're talking about the original 1977 ones. Some of those have telescoping lightsabers, and those go for a lot of money. There is also 2 different or 3 different versions of that Luke's head, if that's the one in his white outfit, the Tatooine outfit you're talking about. So just be careful on that. That's for Carl. Yes, Richard, things have gotten better. I will drop you a line tonight, Richard, before I go to bed, just to touch base on that. I just did some quick posts and haven't had a chance to get back in there, Richard. Thanks, NH Guy. Lolita Bonita. I actually have one that we've already shot half of it for 45s because that is where the easiest money can be made. That will be up. I've talked about this. I do multiple videos in the same day. I usually try and shoot a bunch all together when I can. And then I'll go back and do them, and then I have somebody edit them for me so I can move on with other things. Again, that's where some of the funds go to when we do Patreon and things like that. I break even. That's literally all I'm doing right now on any of this. Just FYI. So I'm sitting for my time through what we get, the little bit we get on eBay, or not on eBay, on YouTube and Patreon. Again, I'm not trying to make a huge profit. I'd just like to be compensated for my time. But we do have a video coming out, and I've got like 10 in the can right now that I just haven't had a chance to get to with everything going on. So I have some time. I want to be able to, spend some time around the holidays with the family, of course, and let my employees do the same thing. So, we've got some coming out. As I said, I do have one just on records coming out soon. And I do have videos right this minute up on record grading too. So if you're into records, go back and look through my how-to video. I got grading. I go over each aspect. I'll go over grading on, the Goldmine standard versus the VJM and all the other standards of grading. I compare them. I think I should actually have some sheets there. I have more content on Patreon about grading as well as copies of the sheets and comparisons from the two versions, so you can have one master grading sheet for records as well too. So. But I will have that coming out soon. Thank you, Linda. My son is home, thank God. Yeah, Christmas tree farms are always great. We do usually go out there. This year we're not going to do a live tree. I've got a huge monster display tree that we bought. Looks real as can be, honestly. Rich get richer. Yes, greed is the number one. Money is the big issue for most people. Tube-wise, tubes are all over the board. The bigger ones with and I don't know the technical term on all the tubes, Richard. Tubes are iffy. If you get a huge bunch of them for almost nothing, I buy them. I've got 500-600 tubes here now in a box. Well, there's several totes actually. I sold the high dollar ones. The best ones that we sell are the ones with marked military marks. Those I always know I can flip real easily. They're usually in plain white cardboard boxes. You can find them in the case-wise even sometimes. Most all of those, if it says like U.S. Navy, U.S. Army, I sell those first, and I sell them all the time right off the bat. They always sell. Those are usually the number ones I'll pull out. And then the next ones up, radio tubes are the best. TV tubes do not sell very well because TV in general, most people aren't keeping the vintage TVs at all. Now radios on the other hand, there's collectors that still play those, and vacuum tubes for the radios are still used in some of the best tube amplifiers around for music. So there's diehard, even record collectors who have tube amplified systems for their turntables and things like that. So those always do better, honestly. I'm not saying you won't do great money on tubes for TVs, but the better ones are radio. The best ones are the large sized ones. I find that the bigger ones are usually the rarer ones. So size-wise, big ones are the best ones, at least from us. I've sold tubes for $500-600 for a used vacuum tube for some items before. Usually amps, as I said, guitar amps, they sell a ton. Boosters and amps and things like that are probably the best. And again, in the box, unused, are good, but again, there's some that are only worth pennies because the items that they would go in aren't useful anymore or collected, like a tube TV. Most people don't collect tube TVs unless they're like 62 or before, I would gather. 50s TVs sell. 40s TVs are extremely insanely rare and go for a ton of money, especially if they work. So touch on that. That's about the best I can give you. If there's 80 to 100 of them and you can get them for 20, 30 bucks, it would well be worth your time. There's no way I would spend $1 a piece on a tube, honestly. I would buy probably the military ones with 1940s World War II dates on them maybe for $1, but that's about the max. There are some specific ones that go in like almost every military radio out there that always sell too, because it's one of the ones that breaks the most. So again, white ones, white cardboard packaging with military markings are what I look for first. I always have a market for that. Even if I don't sell them on eBay, I can sell them locally to some of the radio people here that display and sell in an antique mall here that I know the antique owner, or antique mall owner. So anyway, hopefully that answers that, Richard. 17,000. I've had well over that with my son. Neonatal care adds up extremely quick if you've never had a child in the hospital, as do pediatric. Pediatric cardiologist, I'm assuming, is going to be, I don't know. I don't even want to guess at this point. I'm not going to worry about it. It's not worth my time. Have a good one, Chip and Sunshine. Yeah, Anthony, profit margin. Again, that goes back to the retail arbitrage. If I've missed some comments here, I'm sorry. My feed is all over the place. It disappears, and then it's hard to catch back up to where I was. Let's see here. Retail arbitrage profit margins, yes, because the businesses are ordering less than items. They're learning from their mistakes, and they're watching people sell them online by buying them in the store. So you're going to see less and less retail arbitrage. That's what I'm telling you. It's going to be gone. My guess, 5 years tops. There won't be much at all in drop shipping, and there won't be much at all in retail arbitrage. The drop shipping, the only way I'll still see a bunch of those going around is if someone's licensing them the ability to drop ship from specific stores, but it'll probably just be a company that like Walmart might hire a company to do that for them, and then they'll give them percentages or something along that line. That would be my guess. If I was a business person running Walmart and wanted to see if I could stop that to make the income myself, I would work on either creating a branch of the company that does it, or I would actually look into hiring a company or getting a company to do that for us so that we could control how much of that is going outside of our realm of control, basically, if that makes sense. Yeah, Duncan VR. Sales on my end have been horrendous. I've been selling just, all kinds of oddball stuff. I still have a what's sold on eBay video coming up after I get off here. We're going to cut it off here in just about 5 more minutes, just because of time and everything else too, of course. We're heading to the 3-hour mark here, which I've never done one this long. So anyway. Let's see where we're at. Welcome from the UK. Appreciate the comment shop windows. Welcome, Michael. Thank you very kindly. Marrakech 7 storage auctions in my area. If you're talking about me specifically, yeah, there are, but I don't do them. I don't like occupying garages and having to deal with it. Storage units are hit or miss. You can get lucky and have one that pays for dozens and dozens of them. For me, though, a lot of the ones out here, they're being, happen because people don't have the money to pay for it. And there's not a lot of good items. I've seen some. I know somebody who owns a storage company, and I do have the ability to see and get into most every sale that they have. But I'm just not willing. It's a lot of work. I would have to do it outside in the cold, and I don't want to pay for a warehouse. My business model works great for us. I don't have issues trying to find merchandise. I wouldn't have as many employees as I have if I had that issue. I wouldn't be able to have the employees because I wouldn't be getting the merchandise. My problem isn't merchandise. It's just I could hire a couple more, a couple more employees and get more items up. But we're running several businesses here, and I've moved part of my key interest into some of the toys as well too. A certain percentage of my labor is going to that nowadays. Star City Picker, welcome, thank you. Let's see here. I had one I was going to touch. The company I work for charges $750,000 for 6 shots over a year. Excuse me, Tom. I'm assuming that's medicine. I would not doubt it. I know there are some life-saving medicines that cost more than people make in a lifetime. poor people, of course, and that's, you know, usually the ones who can't afford it and who would die from not having some of this. Let's see here. We're just going to get a couple more. Let's see here. Kathy Steele, thank you for the info. I'm glad to see you're back. Well, thank you. Beginning's a lot of personal talking about my son, so if that's not what you're looking for, you know, no offense. Welcome, Amelia. Glad to have you. Here we go again. My feed just disappeared. Again, if I'm missing somebody's comments, my feed disappeared, so it's not as easy to go back through when it's as long as it is. Let's see if I can get a couple more questions. Yeah, I like the snow. Marrakech 7. This looks like it is around here in a nice snowstorm, so we go up to Michigan. This looks more like Michigan to me, but I love the snow. Ridgeo finds, Jilly, yep, they are doing that. They're not attacking resellers from my aspect of it, because mostly what we sell on Amazon are some wholesale deals that I actually have wholesale slips for, so I have permission to sell them, and they don't mess with me at all. And all the vintage and collectibles, I have never, ever, ever had an issue on Amazon whatsoever selling, especially the records. It's just a piece of cake for what I sell. But again, I have hardly any competition. Most people aren't lucky enough to either bug them enough to get into selling on the collectibles on Amazon, or just don't think there's a big enough market there. Again, it's nowhere near eBay, but on some of the issues like 78 Records, I do sell a ton of them. In fact, more on Amazon than I do on eBay. So anywhere you can get a good market share or get some leverage, that's the best place to sell. Maybe F, thank you. Yeah, you can negotiate. My wife had a couple dental implants, and if we paid up front, they gave us a substantial discount, which was very nice. She had an issue there. She had to have some removed, and it was in a necessary spot. So if you're not aware, implant on a tooth is minimum, if you're lucky, like $3,000 in this country. In another country, it's like a third that cost. So. Waste not, want not. What are the layered color negatives called? Those are color separations. 8 by 10. The size-wise isn't necessary because sometimes they'll do them in a small size for mock-ups to see if the separation works. Nowadays they do them digitally. Back in the day they were done on sheets of acetate or something. Even farther back they used to do ruby cutting. If you look that up, you'll kind of see what that is, where you actually hand did the color separations for like shirts and things like that. Nowadays that's not an issue, but that's what they are, color separations. If it's like multiple sheet layered, one blue, one red, and things along that line, and yellow. Those are the three primaries. So let's go down here. Let's just get one or two more in and we'll go from there. Lisa, we'll just do this one as the last one here just because we're getting down. It's past the 3. Marionettes do sell, and I wished I had another window open here because I could tell you the name. There's a specific brand. I'm going to rack my brain and not think of it till a second I sign off. There's a specific brand. Maybe it's Stucco or Stucco or, geez, I can't think of the name of the brand on it. But there's a specific brand that sells religiously all the time, and not all of them, but many of them. When I was a kid, we went to a puppet, a marionette show here at, I think it was called Storybook Gardens. I don't think it's around anymore, but they did puppet shows there, and I was fascinated by some of the very intricate ones. If they are ones from actual, like a full-fledged puppeteer style with the double hands, and they have multiple mouths, eyes, and stuff, those go for a ton of money because those are actual professional versions of a marionette. Now, there are companies that made them specifically. There's Disney ones, talking about Disney. I know for a fact there's a complete set of like Snow White. There's a complete set of Peter Pan that I've personally seen. There's a Geppetto one, a Pinocchio one. Those sell the best. The character ones are always the best. Always, always, always. Howdy Doody. That's a perfect example of one that always sells. So You just have to be careful. If they're in the box, they'll always sell more, but some of them aren't really worth a lot of money. Depending on how early they are is a key factor. So the earlier ones are always the better ones. So hopefully that helps a little bit on that. It really depends on the specific one you have. I do have a Facebook group as well, so you're welcome to post pictures in there. Again, it's the Auction Professor there. Let me just do a couple shout outs, and we're going to end it here in just a second here. Just so everybody can see. But again, this is the Facebook group. It is under the Auction Professor. I do have my Patreon group, the Auction Professor, as well. That is a paid group. So again, it's not required by anybody. I do professional consulting through that now, just because I've been asked so many times. I wasn't really planning on doing it originally, but I get asked a lot, and some of the questions are really can affect someone's business. So, again, I look into this. I never try to give out bad advice. Anything I may say may not work for you. It's just a given because of your country, where you live, your experience, what the items are. Everything has to be taken on a specific basis. So if you're in doubt, research what, I say, or, get some other advice too. So I'm not the know-all, say-all on everything. I don't, claim to be. So take light in what I say and everything. I try to give you the honest advice. What I give in advice is something that I personally do. This is what I do. This is all I do. So I try to give the best advice I can, and based on my personal experience and personal knowledge. So again, I'm wrong sometimes. I try to point it out if I make a mistake or I've done something wrong. Just to correct that. If I see a wrong comment in a feed or something, I do try to address those, just so other people might not be getting the wrong information or taking something the wrong way or thinking about it wrong. But anyway, that's the gist on it there. We'll pop back to the snow. But again, take what I say with a grain of salt. I do try to give the most honest, true, straightforward advice I can think of. Again, I do make mistakes. So what I say, what I do is from my personal experience and what works for me. I pray that it works for you, but everything is going to work for every person. It depends on your store level, your ranking, how you list the items. Your keywords can be essential, your return policies, how you ship. There's so many other factors. Again, I've worked on this. If something doesn't work or it seems to be dragging down my business, I will go ahead and change that, whether it be shipping aspect, whether it be my description, my photos, like I didn't used to zoom in and now I zoom in, showing key areas and things like that. All of this plays into it. How you word it, how you price it, how setting up and doing things the same way. Your routine helps this all out. So hopefully that gives everybody some ideas and some thoughts. Again, please leave a comment down below if you have any questions. Thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Again, I do appreciate all the comments, the feeds. So much these days I get that I don't get to see and read and reply to all of them, but I do try. Again, I am behind, so bear with me. I may not be on Facebook tonight. So again, please bear with me. Tomorrow we have doctor's appointments, so I may not be up to Facebook till Tuesday. I do try every day to at least look at it somewhat. I haven't had as much chance. I do have a member of my Facebook group that I'm going to be asking if they're interested in being a admin for it as well with me. So hopefully that'll help alleviate some. She's very knowledgeable. I'm not going to call any names because I haven't addressed it with her, but and she's not on tonight, so I can't. So anyway, I'm trying to speed up my reply and only have other people helping that are fairly knowledgeable. And I do have one in my group that's really knowledgeable, and she's been very pleasant. So anyway, I appreciate all the comments and wording. Again, hit the thumbs up if you do liked it. I'm glad to be back on. But so just bear with me these next week or so until we get everything situated with my family and my son. So again, thanks for being on. Hopefully everybody enjoyed it. And again, please leave that thumbs up there. It does help.